I am happy to have Automotive Seminars as a sponsor for the show. Now, if you're not familiar, Automotive Seminars is a diagnostic technician training company. They've got a website that there'll be a link to in the show notes. And what they offer is top-notch training to technicians like us in the field. I've been taking their training courses for years and have got a ton of benefit out of it. They've got top-notch instructors, John Thornton, Scott Shotton, Scott Manna, and every other month they've got a 2-night course that you can sign up for. Join in, ask questions, and afterwards, you've paid for the course, you can access a recorded version whenever you want. You can rewatch the class 2 years later in case you wanted some details on it, and that is a fantastic feature. So make sure to check out the website to see what courses they have available and what's coming up in the future. This podcast is brought to you by Jarhead Diagnostics. Jarhead Diagnostics manufactures in-house diagnostic equipment and storage solutions, as well as distributes for companies like Pico, ATS, and TopDon. One of my favorite tools that I've bought from Brandon and Jarhead Diag is the case for the U-Scope. If you don't have a U-Scope, you probably should, but if you have one, you got to get one of these 3D printed cases, has a magnet on it, has a full-size BNC lead that you can connect to, and it gets rid of the weak point of that scope, which is the mini BNC connection, which is pretty fragile. This case makes this thing nice and secure and makes it an even better tool than it was. So check out jarheaddiag.com. The link is in the show notes. This episode is brought to you by L1 Automotive Training and Keith Perkins. If you're looking for education on module programming, J2534, EEPROM work, key and immobilizer, electrical diagnostics, or drivability diagnostics, Keith has a website, l1training.com, that's got over 60 hours of training videos on all those subjects and more. When I first started out doing mobile, I utilized Keith's videos on module programming in J2534 in order to get my head wrapped around what I would need for the tooling, the computers, the software setups, what kind of obstacles I would be up against when I'm out there programming modules on cars. And it was a huge benefit to me. And I continue to use the training videos that he has on his website. So I strongly recommend checking out l1training.com. We have got Auto Rescue Tools and Isaac Rodell as a sponsor for this podcast. Hey guys, if you're looking for programming laptops, you want the laptop set up ready to go for programming control modules on vehicles, you need key cutting equipment, you need diagnostic tools, Isaac is your guy. Has all that stuff available for purchase, and the support that he offers along with the purchase has been outstanding. I bought some stuff from him in the past. I got my Dolphin key cutting tool from him several years back. And again, the support has been phenomenal. Helped me out along the way with anything additional I needed to make it work for me. Also, for the month of June 2023, they've got Autel updates for sale. So make sure to check that out as well. Again, that's autorescuetools.com. The link will be in the show notes. Welcome to the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. We're going to explore ways to sharpen our diagnostic skills, find learning resources, and hear from experts in the automotive field. Hey, what's going on, automotive world? Welcome to another episode of the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. My name is Sean Tipping, and I'm going to be your host. Today on the show, I've got a couple special guests joining me to talk about the top 5 diagnostic tools that any technician should own. Matt Fanslow and Matthew Skundrich, they've both been on the show before, so you should be familiar with them, but these two guys are top-level experts in the field, and
They've got some really good input on the diagnostic tools that are going to help you the most. I'm going to throw a few of my favorites in as well. Of course, we agree on a few of them, and we decided that it shouldn't be a top 5, should be like a top 50. So there are a number of tools that are mentioned here, along with a couple other topics like ADOS and new parts that don't work right out of the box. Really great talk with these two guys. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Hopefully you will as well. So with that being said, let's jump right in. Do you guys have your 5 tools ranked 1 through 5, or you just have 5?
Frick, I'm going to make them up as we go.
I don't think I would.
All right.
And I agree. I'm kind of probably making this up as I go.
I'm going to be like Fanslow said that. That's a good tool. I'm adding that to my list. I did have a question about the 5 tools.
Yeah.
I'm running out of buncher crunch already. We didn't even start yet. This is a problem. Fanslow's like, why are you eating that garbage?
I wish I could eat that garbage.
Listen,
I don't eat that garbage. It doesn't seem to help.
Listen to me. Are you married?
Yeah.
Did you agree till death do you part?
Somewhere in there, I think. I wasn't paying attention.
There's something about death.
For better or worse, in sickness and in health. Right?
Oh, she hasn't complained.
Right. So okay, you're married. You ain't got nobody to impress. Just
ego.
Enjoy your food and move on.
Yeah, my ego.
Eat more, think less. My wife makes fun of me all the time because I always tell her, like, why are you putting makeup on? You don't have to impress anybody at work. We're married. Just go out there and enjoy it.
I gave my wife a spiel about how I think women are basically walking Bob Ross paintings.
I almost spit this out.
just put a little happy mascara over here, and
just like little indications. Nothing. There's not a lot of details. It's just a lot of indications.
You can tell how mad she is at you by how red her lipstick is.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The fact that both of us are married are kind of impressive.
I know that's a lot of low standards out there, but
it should give anybody else hope. You too can be married. Oh, my nose hurts now. Thank you. Green tea like burns. My wife's getting dressed tomorrow. I'm going to be like, hey, you were a very nice Ross painting today.
You remind me of Bob Ross.
I feel like there needs to be an extra thing of eyeshadow on this eye. Just this one.
Some indications of big eyes. Some indications of rosy cheeks and big rosy cheeks and smooth skin. Just...
What did your wife say when you said that?
I think she wanted to get mad and then thought about it and then was like, God damn it, he's right. Which happens a lot. Like, wants to get really mad at me and think about it and like, dang it.
I don't think I've ever experienced that. My wife just gets mad. There's no thinking.
My ex would. It didn't matter. Yeah. This one's a little different. She's thinks about it first a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like.
I don't recommend it, honestly. Hindsight being 2020. Yeah, it's not worth it. You think you can fix everything at some point. Like, a lot of that was arrogance on my part, thinking, fix her. No, bad idea.
My wife has learned after 7 years to not tell me something's broken.
I was thinking about fixing her. I fix everything else. I couldn't fix her.
I mean, it doesn't matter. She has a problem at work, and I'm like, well, here's your solution. She didn't want the solution. She just wanted to talk.
Dude, you got to watch White Men Can't Jump. There's a whole scene about that. I too
100% accurate.
Have been thirsty.
I'm like, this isn't an issue. You're going to solve it by A, B, and C and move on. And she's like, like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, yes, you are. And then I realized one day, I'm like, she's not telling me this because she wants a solution. She just wants to tell me about her day. I should just listen.
Just check out, and then when she's done, say, "Oh yeah, that sucks. That's good."
Well, and then it becomes, well, at what point, how do you know when she wants solutions, and how do you know when she doesn't want solutions? Right? Like, hey, the toilet's clogged. Well, do you need me to fix that? Or were you just telling me that the toilet's clogged and you already handled it? Because that one I'm okay with you just handle it.
Well, I mean, if we're going to be getting into how to diagnose problems with women, this is going to be a 5-hour podcast.
Well, yeah, and in my case, she's border personality disorder, which is a big umbrella. It's
She
like
married
saying,
you.
yeah, but it's a big umbrella for a lot of issues. But turns out that for her to get better would require an enormous investment of energy on her part and effort through cognitive behavioral therapy. There's no way. There is no way. She's totally cool buying into her own reality. So
I got a 3,000 watt power inverter in my van. I think a couple jump starts we could get her to go right along.
she can't talk. That's an improvement. Let's go. Here's the money, Doc. Thanks.
I haven't found out what I did wrong in 6 weeks. She hasn't complained at me since her last treatment about underwear being on the floor. It's a miracle. Oh my gosh. So you're done with school, Sean?
Yeah, last day was today. We wrapped her up. There's virtual graduation tomorrow, which I don't think any of my students are going to be going to, but we had a little thing for them in the shop, and yeah, we probably weren't supposed to have like food and a little celebration, but I mean, kind of wanted to. We were there in person with them every single day this semester, and it's like we got to send these guys off with something. So yeah, it's always nice to wrap up the semester and go into summer break and actually have a little bit of time to myself to catch up on stuff, because I don't ever seem to have any of that.
Free time?
Yeah. Well, it's all going to be house projects and things I've been putting off for the last 9 months. That's my next month at least, is catching up on that stuff.
I think my wife is ready to shoot me if I tell her I'm going to spend all night working on that van one more night in a row. It has been the never-ending project of projects.
Coming along nicely, though. Those drawers are, it looks nicer than inside my house, but it's not.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the drawers. They're nice. I got 3 sets done. Got 1 more set to make. The wiring's all in. I put a fake ceiling in, insulated the roof, and put a fake plywood ceiling in. And then I put a bunch of recessed LED lights. My dad's like, how bright are they? I don't know. They say 9-watt LED. How bright could they be? It's only 12 volts. I put 5 of them in there, and I turned it on. I was like, whoa, welcome to heaven.
Christmas vacation.
Dad's like, you might want to turn one of them off. I'm like, why? Somebody goes rob me, I'll just turn the lights on.
It's like a flash grenade.
It's flashbangs, yeah.
It didn't help that we tested them
Strobe function.
at like 8:30 at night and turned all the lights off in the van and waited like a second so we could see the full effect. I was like, bink! Whoa! Turn them off! Turn them off!
So you're going to haul 8S stuff around in that van? Is it big enough?
Well, I mean, I've got it all in my Silverado now, so it's definitely an improvement. I mean, like, look, we all bag on the aftermarket stuff all the time, but I tell you what, man, that MA600 kit from Autel, it is portable. I will say that they didn't have the cool little travel totes that they sell now for it, which are ridiculously expensive. Maybe if somebody's cool and listening, they'll find some extra travel totes and mail them. But I don't know.
Yeah. With my kit, I don't really have any complaints. I mean, other than if I don't have something, which is fairly rare. Although I know the time's coming, I'm going to get burnt. That Kia I had that ran into the coding issues and all that.
Oh yeah, I just
That
did a
ends up
2021 yesterday.
Yeah, it ends up being a dynamic cal, but Autel might lend you to believe there's a static using there's a reflector, but it's all black. It's not the mirrored one like for Volkswagen.
Oh yeah, I have that. It's a big flat piece of steel.
Yeah, they
You can
insinuate
use
that.
okay. You can use your mirror. Just don't tell anybody.
But they tell you that's what to use, and it ends up that would not be what to use at all. You'd be better off using the Toyota to do the static portion. But you end up, you just level the stupid sensor and you go for a test drive and it goes. It took a little while, but it finally went. The shit part was the whole coding thing, and Kia's going to refund me my money because J-Box should have worked.
Hyundai never will because they won't answer their support. So just know. I had a 2021 Hyundai Sonata that got a new front radar, and it needed coded and aiming. And as the guy told me, we put a new radar in this, I was like, oh. If Fanslow's story comes true, I'm in trouble. And I went in, got the as-built sheet from the OE site, looked up all the options, went into my Autel, edited it, hit OK, made sure the tablet was online because it's got to be online, and it said coded successful.
Son of a
and
bitch.
And then what's really interesting is that one, you have to get the 2-digit code at the end of the radar, and you type it in. Then you have to aim the radar to that angle. So mine was like negative 1.2 degrees. So then you aim the radar to that. Then you put your triangle out there, which I happen to have the OE triangle for Hyundai Kia because it was a little bit different size, so I bought it. And it's probably the coolest one other than it goes on a tripod, but the little plumb bob that falls down from the triangle makes it so easy to set on the point. I put it out there, hit calibrate, and it was like, ding, ding, done.
Nice.
So I was like super excited that it was quick. But yeah, I was really worried it wasn't going to work because of your story the other day. But it worked. So
Nice.
2021's work.
You guys were talking about reading directions before we started recording. I mean, how's anybody going to fix this 8S stuff in 10 years? I mean, you got to read all of that stuff and understand and actually do all those steps.
You want to talk about some stupid instructions? Go look up a 2020 Toyota, I don't care what it is, Corolla with a round view. When you print it, that PDF is 72 pages.
Jesus.
and as you're thumbing through it, you're like, yeah, I'm pretty thorough at reading everything. Yeah, I'm not reading this. And you just go behind you. You're just like, because it's stupid. You got to like put tape in certain spots. It's like,
oh,
it's really dumb.
Like the ISTA installation guide, right?
Yeah. And then Nissan's another one. They're a round view. Oh, put a string down here. Measure 3 inches from the wheel. Put a string down. And then if you don't get a later car and you're doing an earlier one where they didn't modify the directions to tell you to use a strap, and you put a string down and you go and look at your camera and you're like, you can't even see the friggin' string in the camera view because you actually adjust the bird's eye view through the radio, right? So Consult tells it, hey, we're going to aim this camera, and then it shows that one camera, and then you adjust it and you check it on the radio screen, and then you adjust it and you check it again, the image, the way it looks, and how it, because you can rotate it, move the X and the Y so it's aimed just right.
Okay.
Well, the first one I did, it said to use string. I'm like, I have 20/20 vision and I can't see the friggin' string in the screen. This is dumb. And I called somebody and he's like, you know that nylon chair strap that you used to have when you were a kid, and once in a while you'd sit in the chair and you'd fall through because the UV rays baked the chair to death? I'm like, yeah. He's like, buy some bright orange 1.5 inch wide strap and cut it and use that. You can see it real easy. And he's right. It worked great. And the thickness of the line you're moving on the radio screen, it's so wide that the 1.5-inch strap, it like covers like half the strap. So you just put it in the middle of the strap, and it's way easier to do now. But it's a procedure and a half. In 10 years, it ain't gonna matter because nobody's gonna have a module to fix the car because they ain't making the modules now because we ain't got no chips. So
Yeah,
who cares?
that's a whole nother problem. I mean, do they have guys at the dealerships that's all they do is the ADAS calibrations? I mean, to do that proficiently, you'd have to be doing it all the time to really know how to set up all that stuff quickly.
The 2 dealerships I service that have body shops, I'm their ADAS person.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard that before. And maybe it was from Matt. But it seems like I've heard this now from Baltuis and a few others that they do a lot of calibrations for dealers because it's cheaper to the dealer to have them do it than it is for them to do it themselves. And I mean, even for some of the mobile guys, you know, like Mass, I think Hype does all the Volkswagen, Audi, and maybe BMW calibrations. And he hates BMW with a passion, but it's part, you know, they bought that alignment system from Hunter, but it's blue, the vague style. It's all set up, ready to go. So that's almost his life, is sitting there doing them stupid calibrations all day.
Like the one Ford dealer near me, when they have to do a 360 camera, the body shop has the space and they don't. Well, none of their techs want to sit there and use the body shop because they don't know anybody. So the service director just calls me up, hey man, can you come out today and do this? And sometimes I'm like, nope. Some days I'm like, oh, I'm already here, bring it down. But it's nice because they leave their mats at that body shop.
Yep.
So I don't have to worry about having a mat down there because they're there. Because that is one tool I don't carry with me is the Ford 360 mats. Them suckers are big. They're heavy. They're big. They're heavy. But I mentioned they're really big and heavy.
Yeah, I don't have them yet, but I'm waiting to be burned by not having them.
You know, it's funny. I service that Ford dealer, and I've maybe needed them 5 times in 7 years. That's not including the ones that, like, the dealer sends me, right? But I mean, like, other shops. What's interesting is my wife has a 2020 Ford Explorer ST. We got it because great deals on cars during COVID. And I had to go do a 2020 Explorer Platinum radar and camera calibration, around view camera calibration. I loaded the mats in my truck. I drove down to the shop. I'm all excited. I'm going to use the mats. I get there. It's a dynamic around view now. Like, you son of a biscuit. Now, what's funny is the Explorer is dynamic, but the Expedition, the Navigator is not.
Huh.
So it's really weird. Like, I was like, what? Because then I had to go do an Expedition somewhere, and I'm like, oh, it's a 2020. It's on FDRS. No big deal. It's the same system as the Explorer. I drove all the way down there, didn't have my mats, and I was like, you freaking kidding me? I need those damn mats. So, but I will say the dynamic absolutely sucks. You have to read you basically do it, have it fail, then you read the instructions because you read them as you're doing it, and then you realize when it fails, oh, as soon as the car starts moving, it starts looking for straight lines to build the image together, and it builds it within like 5 seconds. So basically do it in a parking lot because you're just going to go, whoop, oh, calibrated, and then you're done.
That's it.
Yeah, if you pull off the side of the road, like I did, like I was like, oh, it says drive in a straight line. So I pulled off the side of the road, hit start. When I pulled on, because it saw that straight line, but I turned the car just a little, it contorted the whole line. It was really weird how it took the calibration. I must have did it 3 times before I finally said, screw it, I'm going to go in a parking lot. I went to a parking lot and drove through 4 parking spots, and I was like, done, perfect. So
is that how you see most of those going, is where the vehicle is going to be able to calibrate by itself?
Tesla is the example to follow in the world of ADAS, right? Because everybody thinks they have this great level 12 autopilot where you can sleep, and realistically it's just level 2. But, we can discuss that later. But Tesla now, their new cars, I mean, the customer can calibrate them. It's right in the radio.
I'm torn about it. I would have said everything will become dynamic. But it's like the manufacturers just keep coming out with more and more static. And my understanding is because while the US and maybe England and some European countries all have roads and whatnot that are suitable for dynamic calibrations, there's many, 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 many areas of the world where that is not reasonable. Therefore, that's why they need the targets and the static cals. But I don't know. It's such a... Some people are going more dynamic. Some are bringing out more static shit.
Well,
and it's...
Well, look at FCA. FCA is going more static.
Right. It's just like... I don't know what to believe anymore. I just figure whatever happens, happens.
I think they're all going to have both. Look at Toyota. Toyota forever was static, 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 static.
Yep.
Now Toyota in the 2021s, they have static with a triangle, static with a flat plate, and dynamic. So that black square you were talking about earlier, that's also for Toyota now.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, depending on what equipment you want to use, you have 3 different options for Toyota. Now, I've heard, I haven't tried it because I got warned. If you hit the dynamic button, you're driving that SOB for at least a half an hour, 45 minutes, so don't do it. Okay, I won't do it.
I guess I don't mind. I like the ones that have some sort of indication of learning.
Oh,
Yeah.
Not
That
like
is
a
complete.
fucking Kia, not like a Ford.
Kia tells you, and so does Hyundai, but you exit out and you go into live data, and it'll tell you progress.
Okay. Yeah.
But Mazda doesn't tell you. Ford tells you on a lot of them, but not all of them.
Right.
Mazda is the best. Calibration failed, but all the lights are off.
Right.
And then you find the TSB that says, "Oh, if it says calibration failed, it probably
It
works."
means the past, yeah.
Yeah, test the system. Well, wait, how do I know if it failed? Oh, the light doesn't go off. That's how you know it failed.
The best
Can you
one.
fix the software?
People are getting their asses handed to them on those, and who could blame them? But still,
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, and then like I do a lot of glass calibrations for a glass company, right? And SafeLight runs all the insurance claims, and in Florida you get free windshields if you have full coverage. So of course he does a buttload of calibrations, so I have to do a buttload of calibrations. Well, now they want a pre-scan, a post-scan, and something showing that the windshield completed calibration. Well, apparently they did not accept that I took a picture of the dash with the lights on and then took a picture of the dash with the lights off. They're like, "No, we need the scanner to tell us." And I'm like, "Look, the light was on and the light's off. I don't know what to tell you." That's what the TSB says. So then I send them the Mazda TSB, and the lady's like, "Well, we don't accept this." The hell you mean you don't accept it? It's from the OEM, like. And the best is if your scan report doesn't say pre or post, they reject it too. So now on my, like, if I do a Chrysler because it just says health report, they're like, "Well, how do I know if that's a pre or a post?" Well, one says like 10:30 in the morning, the other one says 10:45. Let's just deductive. Oh no! Now I take my PDF and I slap the word pre on top of it. But I don't know how else to make it work. And the problem is it's the aftermarket tooling that's screwing everybody. And I'm not saying the aftermarket tooling is it's actually kind of nice, because if you have the Alltel system, you can type in an RO number, and then it records your scans, puts it as pre, and then you back out, go back in, and you do your ADOS calibration, and then you do your post scan, and what it does is it generates, "Oh, these were the codes that this technician had when he first started. These are the buttons he pushed and why he did this calibration. This shows calibration success. Oh, and here's the codes afterwards for them," right? So the insurance companies like went to Alltel and all the other companies. I can't think of who they are off the top of my head. I just use Alltel. So Launch and everybody else, and said, "Hey, we want this style report," and they all did it. Well, the problem is they didn't think about an OE. And what really ticks me off is if, like, the other day I couldn't get to a Honda for my glass guy, and it was at the dealer, and the dealer's like, "Oh, fine, we'll do it." because the customer was waiting, and I just happened to have like a bad morning. And so he was trying to tell the service writer, like, no, look, in order for me to get paid, I need a pre-scan, I need a post-scan, and I need a screenshot showing it completed. Well, they handed him a bill, and he sent the bill in. Because it says dealer on the top of it, they just paid it. I'm like, son of a bitch. Like, well, I had to jump through 37 hoops to get paid, and because it says deal. So I think I'm going to change my name to Mobile Advanced Diagnostics Dealer, so that I don't have to jump through all the hoops, because apparently that's the magic new word now, is dealer.
You guys want to talk about some tools?
Oh yeah, I guess we should talk about What are we supposed to talk about?
I thought we'd go with top 5 diagnostic tools to own.
Oh yeah, that was the topic. Listen, it was my birthday. This is how the week started. May 9th is Grandma's birthday. May 11th is my birthday. May 12th is my mom's birthday. We had Mother's Day in there. It's been a rough week. I think Fanslow fell asleep. He hasn't moved in like a minute. Oh wait.
I thought it was frozen at first.
I know. I was like, he's not. Get the defibrillator. Get the defibrillator.
But yeah, I thought we could just list off some top 5 tools, diagnostic wise, that would recommend. I don't know if the right way to put it's everybody needs to own them, but what's most important as far as
all right,
diagnostics go.
I'm going to name the number 1 tool that you must have, and I take with me on every job, and when I break it, I instantly stop at Napa and buy another one.
Okay.
Incandescent test light that takes a 194 bulb. Gotta have it. I don't care what I'm doing. It's gotta be with me. Because if a car pisses me off, I'll stab it with it. If I need to check power, they'll tell me if the power works. So.
Well, that's on my list for sure. And yeah, I have 4 test lights, all with different bulbs in them for different amperages, right? This I might need it for, depending on the circuit and the amperage I want to pull through there. But yeah, I mean,
I'm not that
pull it out
obsessive.
on like almost every job. I got a test light out on most of the time. If there's any circuit issue, any electrical testing, I got my test light out. I mean, I think most people know. They know about a test light, but I don't know if everybody understands just how simple and valuable it is to every day.
Here's why I use a test light. This is my very sad story about a $900 mistake. So I got convinced 7 years ago when I started my company that I should have a Load Pro because it loads the circuit and does this great test at the push of a button. Right, and it goes anywhere. And I was a power probe junkie, so I was like, fine, whatever. I bought into the hype. So I had this dosing module on a Chrysler. It had no communication. So I got my Load Pro down, checked back probed into the power wire with the module still attached, mind you, and hit the button, and the voltage didn't drop on the power side. Okay, it's good. Did the same thing on the ground side. Okay, so I have power and ground. I scope with my U-scope my little can lines real quick. Oh, yep, must need a module. I get a new module and plug it in, and I have the exact same problem. I'm like, what? There's something wrong here. So I grabbed my handy dandy test light and stuck it on the power, and I had no power. Like, it wouldn't light the bulb. I was like, but the Load Pro says they have power. And so I hit the Load Pro button like 6 or 7 times. And about the 7th time, it dropped to 0 volts. And I realized that the switch wasn't making contact for the resistor all the time. I chopped the leads off. I threw it in the garbage can. Test light ever since. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I had to do this with the module unplugged because it's on top of the dosing tank. And so you couldn't get to it. I unplugged it, which is why I used the Load Pro. Because I'm like, oh, it loads the circuit.
Okay.
Yeah, so you couldn't. That's what it was. You couldn't do it with it. And it's like we're in Florida. Like there's cattle farms everywhere. the amount of horse manure and cow manure underneath his truck was so disgusting. You really didn't want to spend as much time as you wanted underneath it. But yeah, I had pulled the connector out because I couldn't get to the module. It's bolted to the top it was like a 2015 3500, but it's bolted to the top, and they had to like drop the tank a little to change it. But I felt really bad. It was a $900 module, and I was like, the Load Pro didn't work. I should have used my test light. So now I use a test light because you can see if the load's working or not, right? If the light's not on, you know that the circuit's not loaded. And I know people go, but it's not enough amperage. It's only half an amp. Listen, your module ain't drawing over half an amp to wake up, so I'm perfectly okay with half an amp draw. And the other thing I like about my test light, and I teach this in my basic electrical classes, you can measure a voltage drop with your test light a lot easier because you can put the banana clip right on your big long lead. But if you need to test fuses in a Volkswagen, make sure you don't have the one that has the really long bare metal tip when you're testing the fuse. Because if you touch the fuse on a Volkswagen, the interior fuse box is like 6 inches in on the dashboard, and their metal bracket goes around it. So if you have that like long 8-inch metal probe and you're not really paying attention, you touch the fuse and accidentally touch that, it's a straight short to ground with that like 1/4-inch metal rod. Dude, it shoots the most amazing sparks, and you will spend more money in fuses than you ever thought possible. But you know that circuit works.
It's like playing Operation, right? You gotta get the wishbone out of there.
So now I have a piece of double-walled, glued, insulated heat shrink on my test light after that incident. So you do have to be careful. Every car, I don't care what I'm diagnosing, it's going with me. It has to be. I grew up as a construction kid doing electrical and contracting in houses, so we had buckets, right? I don't know if you've ever been on a job site, but every tool goes in a bucket. There's no organization to the buckets. It just goes in a 5-gallon bucket, and then you just put the bucket in the truck. And then when you get to the next job, you're like, hey, find the measuring tape. Where's it at? Well, it's in a bucket. We loaded 10 buckets. Can you give me a clue? No, you just look through all 10 buckets. So that's in my bucket.
All right. What do you got, Fanslow?
Well, I definitely have an assortment of test lights. None of them are the computer safe variety. I think we're kind of sold a line of BS on that. But yeah, some of them aren't technically test lights. They're made from 194 bulbs, 31 57s, headlight bulbs, all for the purpose of varying what type of a load I want to put on that circuit. Boy, oh boy, must-have tools. It's really hard to get away from a U-scope for the price, capability, durability. I don't know how you get away from it. It just comes in handy. No, you're not doing crank versus cam, but how many times are you laying under a dash testing something for the HVAC system, blower motor stuff, blend air door stuff? You don't need 4-channel or 8-channel or 2-channel, nothing. That little, just really handy, easy to get to, easy to operate with one hand. Tells you what you need to know. And I mean, again, the price, it's priced that everybody can have one.
Everybody should have 2.
And you got a 2-channel scope right there. You got to pause them at the same time.
Just stack them.
That's what I do. I need 4 channels. Just stack them up. I 3D printed a little thing. You can just slide them all into each other and stack them.
Are they synced? Details.
It's synced, right? You start the car at the same time.
Right.
Turn the switch on at the same time. You just watch them at the same time. Come on.
Yeah, well, yeah, if you took a picture with your phone and then you just line up the cam and the crank on the picture on your phone, you figure out if it's in time.
Well, I mean, if you just let it run, right? Like it's live, so it's got to be there.
Yeah, that little thing's so capable, and yes, it goes with me to just about every car. Like it's the thing I'm gonna pull out every time before my Pico, unless
I know I'm doing a cam crank or I need multiple channels for whatever reason, but otherwise it's the U-scope because of how easy it is to set up, and it's totally capable. I can see CAN bus waveforms just fine. And I mean, there's not a whole lot that's more detailed than you need on a regular basis. So I mean,
yeah. And you could even use a thought process of like, if you work in a shop that does a level 1 diagnostics for a drivability concern, the U-scope is definitely for the level 1. If you're doing your initial tests and realize that you're going to need something more than the U-scope, now you get to hit pause and the service advisor calls up the customer to authorize level 2, because that's when you're pulling out, the big guns, if you will.
So here's my question, because when we talked about having just 5 tools to take with you, I put the U-scope on my list because I love it, and then I deleted it from my list. And here's why. Because I said, oh, well, I'm going to take a scan tool, and we never specified if there was any limits on what we could spend. And so I said, U-scope crossed off Ultra from Altel, because then I get the scope with it. But
because we were talking about doing either just the top 5, or you're talking about doing the 5 tools you would want on you for a vehicle that you're not. Okay, so I'm just picking top 5.
Oh yeah, okay. But that's why I was like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a different thought process there. If you had to have 5 going into it blind, you want the most capability out of one tool, right?
I'm like, how bad can I cheat this and get 3 4 tools out of one? Right. Boy, like, I'm going to say a Power Probe 4 would be in my top.
Yeah, you're going to have your OTC Genesis out so that you can have a 5-gas analyzer and a scope module. None of them are worth a crap, but you got it.
No, U-scope's definitely on my top 5. Everybody should own one. I love it.
For students, it's huge because the price is right, and then that gets them the introduction to using a scope, right? Even if they're not doing crazy stuff, they know time-based, they know voltage scale, and they didn't spend a ridiculous amount of money. And then if they want to expand beyond that, get a Snap-on or a Pico or whatever, they're ready for it. They know how to use it.
And some of that stuff you would hope the shop would pick up the tab. It may not happen. In my world, it didn't happen. I just bought it myself. But a lot of people, and hopefully the trend is more so shops are starting to pick up a lot of this stuff, especially if they got a tech that wants it,
Yeah, I like the U-scope over any other, I'm going to call it entry-level scope, right? And I'm not knocking it. Just because it's one channel, I'm giving it entry-level name. But the thought to me is, it now has presets. It used to not have presets. I know AES Wave's done some killer updates to that software, but I never use their presets anyway. But it really trains a young tech to understand how the voltage division changes that graph, how the time base changes that graph. And you could do it with such an easy push of the button that it's so quick that you almost don't even want to try to figure out the preset setup that they have. I know there's YouTube videos on it and I should really watch them, but I'm just like, if I have to spend 5 minutes to learn how to use a tool, I'm just going to keep pushing buttons how I know how. So that's where I think the U-scope really shines too, is it teaches you more than just a scope, right? So then when you get to Pico, if you're like, oh, I need to scope this and this, you don't have to worry about having 5 presets built up. You can just time base it and go on.
So on your note about the Ultra, one of the tools that I put down, for diagnostic techs that, the Ultra's got scope and scan tool and JBox and all that stuff. And I haven't actually used one myself. I hear they're pretty nice.
Got one. You need one.
Okay.
It's God's gift.
But my other one isn't Autel. It's the IM608. And the reason for that is just all that you get with that tool, right? You get an Autel scan tool, which is pretty capable on a lot of stuff. You get the JBox, but you also get the programmer with it, which maybe not is for everybody, but
you're getting it along with everything else. And now there's, you know, some ways that you can learn about this stuff and add just another piece to what you're capable of doing. And it's a lot in one tool.
The thing I find funny about the Ultra is it's the Ultel Ultra, right? It should be like the ultimate tool, and it includes no IMO functions. I'm like, how do you have a tool call it Ultra and then skip IMO? Like, it seems like an oxymoron in the name, but whatever.
The immobilizer functions, I guess that I didn't even mention that. That's just through the scan tool. The immobilizer functions that you have with that tool makes it so versatile to be able to do all kinds of stuff.
Yes. Yeah, when you mentioned programmer, the JBox is separate from what he's talking about. The programmer is more for chip level, you know, accessing the board, accessing a specific chip, usually 8-leg, and doing some sort of editing or copying, pasting, or something like that to solve, I would say generally immobilizer type stuff, but
come on, you're not busting it out to do the S12 secured microprocessor change of mileage in that Ford cluster.
Well, but I mean, I think in the near future, Sean's going to have a case study that he went beyond a mobilizer in a very interesting vehicle. Very, very interesting. So hopefully I leave everybody with a little bit of cliffhanger on there where he uses the programmer, the XP400 specifically, to rescue not one vehicle but two. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's
one of which I broke, but we were able to fix that.
Listen, it's not about if you break it; it's about if you can fix it that matters. There's a group on a locksmith group I'm in on Facebook, and it's a bunch of people that basically invited me in there because they ask me programming questions about J2534 all the time. And they know I know that, and they know I suck at keys. Well, one of the guys posted, how do you know if you're an elite locksmith or not? My comment was, you're elite enough when you know to say no to a job because you'll just screw it up, but then enjoy the phone call after somebody else screws it up for you to come fix it. And somebody's like, new business model for 2020. Because there's a lot of jobs I turned down, right? Like, I can do a BMW FEM job, but I don't want to, right? I can go do an ADOS job and make the same amount of money and have a lot less risk. And so I'll be like, man, I'm just too busy to do your BMW key. And I'll get the call like 2 days later. Hey, so I called like Jose Cuervo out here to do my key. And I think I know why they call him Jose Cuervo, because my car doesn't start now and I have more problems than when we started. And I'm like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah, that's a little bit of life experience to be able to see that stuff come in, because sometimes you don't, and you're like, oh yeah, I can do that. And you jump in and then you hate your life for the next day or so. But yeah, when you get to that point, at least you know ahead of time, yeah, like this is not what I want to end up doing with my day. At least then have the wherewithal to say, yeah, it's okay. I got a lot of stuff going on. I can't take that one right now.
The best business advice I got from Robert Dutch Silverstein was learn to say no. And it has been the best moneymaker of all time. Because by not saying no, if I would have taken that job, sure, I could have done it. But would I have missed other jobs? Well, yeah, there's a good probability of that. But then if that job goes south, how much did it just cost you? And that was one of those things where I was like, at first I thought he was an idiot, and then we talked about it more, and I'm like, dang it, why are you always right? I say it's because he's old, but that's... Anyway, back to tools. So the 608, yeah, I don't know. I have a scanner on my list for like top 5 tools everybody has to have. Like, I feel every tech should own a scanner. I know the shop should provide one, but I feel like every tech should own one. And I'm not talking like the tech should own an Ultra, but the tech definitely should own like a 906. Or the Launch X431, or the new Top Don that's out. I can't think of it.
I think Phoenix Plus.
The Phoenix, it's pretty reasonably priced. It's pretty good. It's based off Launch.
Well, yeah, and they got that. I mean, I think it's a pretty screaming deal that
Well, yeah, but that's like limited, so don't mention it because then somebody listens to this podcast 2 months, they'll be all upset they didn't get it.
you should be listening to it all the time.
That's right. You gotta download it
Once
right
Sean
away on
puts it
Monday.
up, you guys should be listening to it. But there's a couple vendors that you can buy the Top Done Phoenix Plus with unlimited free lifetime updates.
Yeah, tell me about that. I saw you post something. I haven't.
My
heard of this tool
608's that
before.
way.
I had a launch, and I don't use it all the time. It wasn't my first
Because
grab or
Alltel's
anything.
better.
It wasn't my
Sorry.
first grab, but it's one of those things where you buy stuff because maybe just maybe you get that car in and you kind of go through whatever scan tools you got and it doesn't do it. So now it's one more before I have to, depending, again, this is always like car line specific.
Mm-hmm.
What is the BS level in getting the OE tool fired up? Whether I have the OE interface or I'm using a JBox, sometimes it's a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Some factory scan tools, whether you have the OE interface or not, if you don't use them regularly, there's a certain pain level in getting them up and operating. So now if you have aftermarket tools that usually get you by, especially when it doesn't involve like firmware updating, it's calibrations or tests or data stream type stuff, PIDs, that you kind of start loading up on different types of aftermarket tools that are stronger on certain things than others. And I bought the launch off Amazon to plug holes. It was inexpensive. And then I see this deal with the Top Done, and I would consider the vice president of Top Done a friend, and it's like, you know what, I'm gonna jump on this. So I bought one, and it's like free updates. I'm gonna pay this thing off in a few years based strictly off updates. If the updates were $500 a year, I've made my money back in 3 years.
Sure.
And so I went for it.
We're supposed to update our scanners? Come on.
And then I sent Justin Morgan my launch. So
I got my 608 with lifetime updates, and now we're on like year 3, and I'm like, this was the best money ever spent.
yeah, I got the IM 600.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
508. The IM 508.
Okay,
Like the little one.
mine's badged Oro.
Yeah, it's the
Okay.
RO 508.
IM 100. Oh, okay.
Or IM 100, yeah, sorry, 500.
Well, it's essentially
IM
the
100,
same though. Yeah, you're right.
Damn it, too many freaking tools
dude,
and
isn't it?
numbers.
Acronyms.
And then what really pisses me off is they have the 508, and then they have the TS 508. So
Yeah.
when somebody's like, "Oh, I got a 508," and I'm like, "Well, tire
TPMS
pressure
tool? Good
or
for you."
immobilizer tool? Which one?" Yeah. I'm like, "Well, I ain't gonna program the key, but I'm glad you bought it." So you got to be careful when you tell somebody to go buy a 508. Oh, 508
Right.
will do that. Go online, I'll tell 508 get a TPMS tool.
Be very specific. I got another one on here that's from AES Wave, the U scope. That's where you can get that. The U terminal test.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That,
Oh my god!
that comes
I'm so
with
glad
me
that's on your
just
list too.
about everywhere.
I like the way you're thinking.
And it's got got the little pouch.
Do you
in
have
it.
the old kit and the new kit?
I do.
I bought mine in 2018, so I don't know which one's which.
You have the old kit.
Okay.
Is it? Do you taste the Skittles or not taste the Skittles when you open it up?
Yeah, there's every color. under
If you
there.
have a new kit, you get the.
Yep.
Yeah. I actually both
yeah.
kits because some of the leads in the top section changed from the old kit to the new kit. And so I'm like, hey, Carlos, can we like merge all these together in one big kit? Because I still
Yep,
see
they're
those
just in
cars.
2 cases.
That's what he thought. But they don't make the old kit anymore. That's
No,
the-
I know.
that's the-
Yeah.
See, there's a dilemma
Yep.
here. Yeah.
God,
But
that's
yeah,
a good
that thing's awesome for connecting to circuits if you're using a scope or test light or U scope or whatever. Doing pin drag tests, I use it all the time for that. And then it's got a little pouch in there, so I got like a headlight bulb in there. I've got some wire piercing probes. It came with some wire piercing probes, but they actually opened up on me, or one of them did, and I got just burnt by that because I'm chasing this open probe inside of it for like an hour because I thought it was in the circuit. And so I guess that would be that'd be the downside, but I put some nicer ones in there, and it's got the airbag simulators, which are just resistors, but I mean, it's just so handy to have everything.
Oh my gosh, that is the airbag simulator in that kit makes it worth its weight in gold.
It's like a couple $100, right? $199, right? I think it's $199.
It's
heck of a buy.
It's so stupid cheap. I bought 10 of them and then sold them to shops around me.
That's a good idea because I always get asked when I pull it out, like, oh, where'd you get that from? So God, I gotta have a few of them on the van.
So if you buy them, make sure you call Carlos, because at the time he's like, well, I think I ordered 10, and he's like, I'm not shipping you 10, I'm shipping you 12. And you owe me another $400. Well, I don't want to buy 12. I want to buy 10 because it's $400 cheaper. But they come in like a case of 6, right? Like the box. So he did ship me like 12 of them. And it was funny because it was right before he came out with the new kits. And so I had sold like 8 of them. And he's like, hey, man, how many of them kits do you sell? I might need to buy a bag from you. Because he was running. He had like so many kits sold, and they weren't making the new ones because they were trying to transition. And I'm like, well, I've got like 4 left. Mail them back.
I will say, but there are other versions of it out there, like cheaper versions, not AES Wave, that have like terminal leads in there. Don't get that one. I have a coworker that ended up purchasing one of those, and it's nowhere near the same quality, and none of the leads stay in their little spot. When you open it up, they all fall out, and he was super disappointed because I had showed him mine. I'm like, this thing's freaking awesome, and he found one, I don't know, somewhere online, and not the same quality. Yeah, exactly.
The other thing that's in that kit that I find utterly the most useful tool on the planet is the potentiometer that's in there.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I will say that it's very, very low wattage. Carlos has been nice and warrantied out 2 of them so far. I had an AC system that had a direct short, and I was just like, oh, this pressure's through the roof. Wonder if the sensor's bad. I didn't even bother to check for short. Then I plugged that sucker in. It was poof. I was like, I know what's wrong with this system. But I mean, that 5-volt, I mean, if you've got an AC system, or that potentiometer, if you've got an AC system that you don't have light fade on, like Nissan, because they suck. Nobody should buy those cars ever. They suck. And you're like, hey, the AC's not working, and you think it might be a pressure switch issue, or you have a code for a pressure switch, but there's no data. You can go in and just move that thing around and get it to work. It's nice.
Yeah. Or just something as simple as a gauge sweep test, especially when they give you the spec. The ones that jump to mind are Ford, that they're typically pretty good about the specs of the like the fuel level sensor and for resistance or whatnot, and you can set it, stick that in there, and does it do what it's supposed to do?
I use it a lot for Havocs because it's got that resistance, so it knows where the potential or knows where the motor is supposed to be.
Yeah,
and so I'll do a little sweep with it and make sure that the Havoc module is reading the right position based on the resistance.
Yeah, fuse buddies that are in there are pretty handy too because they got the extra lead, so you can connect a meter to scope and put an amp clamper on there.
I just bought their new fuse buddy kit.
Does it cover all the weird ones?
Yes.
Yeah, like the 3-leg.
Yeah, the 3-leg.
Yep.
I bought a 2021 Transit, and they come with these upfitter switches. So I have 4 aux switches. 2 are 20 amp circuits, each 20 amps, and then the last 2 switches are each a 40 amp circuit. But you got to like plug in the wire harness, right, and run it. And so I'm like thumbing through the manual, and it gives you a list of all the fuses. my 2021 Transit has every fuse possible. I have a mini, the micro, the micro 3, the JTAC, the mini JTAC. I was like, it was like Ford was like, hey, we have all these fuses lying around. Let's put them in a Transit. It's pretty bad. So some of them I never knew what the name of them were. I just call it the 3-leg POS because that's how I feel about it every time I see one. But it's actually a micro 3. I'm gonna name a kit that's probably not on anybody's list other than mine, but I feel every tech needs to have it. One of the wire harness depinning sets.
Oh yeah, I have like 6 of them.
There's only one kit you need. Fine Pigtails sells it. It's like $100. It's got these real nice metal leads. I bought it off Amazon, but finepigtails.com sells it, and I buy a bunch of connectors from them when I need them. But it's it's solid. Like I haven't broke a lead yet. It's $100 or $110 for the kit, but it comes with like 18 different things. And it's nice. I couldn't, mostly because 80% of my job's electrical. So to me, if I really want to test a circuit, I'll plug in everything but that one pin that I'm worried about testing. I will actually de-pin a connector and hold that out just to test something with it. Especially if you have the U Advanced test kit. If you're really good, you can de-pin it and then shove in the correct pin so you can get a good reading out of a module.
Sure.
So yeah, I feel that like every tech must have a deep pinning kit, especially if you're going to work on Chryslers, because the new friggin' automatic grill shutter is wired wrong now, so you need one anyway.
I think Steelman won the big Steelman kit.
I think that's it. It's made by. I think Steelman's the one I got off Amazon, and then I bought another one from Fine Pigtails. And it's like the same kit, but I was like, "This is sweet. I have a second one," because I feel you should have 2 of everything. I'm just
because you're gonna break one.
Yeah.
Well, like the U Advanced kit, you put a lead down and forget about it, and then you're like, "Shit, I only got 3 of them, and I need 4." You just go bust open your. California is really far to get a shipment overnight.
I guess one I would throw in there is and mainly out of laziness on my part, is the Amp Hound or Amp Hound 2.
I don't even own one.
Yeah, again, super inexpensive, and it's basically a little voltmeter that you voltage drop fuses with to find parasitic drains. So
I have the first one. I've had that thing forever. The Matco guy sold it to me while I was at Firestone. And I didn't even realize how cool it was until years later. And I pulled this thing out. I'm like, oh, this is really sweet. I don't have to unplug any fuses anymore.
Or you got the chart and you got your meter and your
right.
Yeah, come on.
And it works. That absolutely works.
So freaking lazy.
I am very lazy.
You got too much money.
Yeah, actually I don't. But the reason is because I have a bunch of crap.
No, what's funny is I won't buy it because I don't want to do parasitic draws mobily, right? Because it's like, oh, let me get here and wait 40 minutes for the car to go to sleep.
I don't blame you. I don't know. And then if you get the reputation of having some success on them, and other shops freaking find out that you figured a few out, they just send them all your way.
Yeah.
Now, I've done a couple for body shops, but I have rules when I do them now. The car must be left inside, in the shade, overnight, and it cannot go outside in the sun. The reason is my thermal imager, because Florida's so hot, will not detect anything if it sits outside in the sun.
That was going to be my next one, was a thermal imager.
See, I wouldn't put it on the list. I hardly use mine. I find it just... I bought the Snap-on one for like $1,500 when they first came out. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Yep. I used it twice, and I'm like, eh.
Yeah, I know is almost like the Ford Chevy debate. I don't know that the Snap-on one is really in the debate, But I think some of those Seeks, and I think the Autel imager is pretty darn good. I don't have one.
I don't have an Autel one either.
Yeah, I would like to just to see it in action. I got a FLIR. That it's one of the smaller FLIRs. I mean, it works. I like it. The screen's smaller, where the Snap-on and I think the Autels, the screens are fairly good sized. You know,
we have the Seek and then the FLIR, and they actually just plug into your phone. So you use your phone as a screen, and it makes the image a little bit bigger, and like they're a little bit more cost effective because you're not buying the whole handheld thing. But
listen, I don't want to use my $1,000 plus iPhone for anything near a car.
I still have an iPhone 7, so I don't care if I drop it.
But it's it's one of those use your imagine, and not to take away from or steer this away from what Matt was talking about before he mentioned thermal imagers, but it's kind of one of those use your imagination. AC looking for blockages, heated seats for the grids or the defrosters, of course, or rear defogger, I should say, maybe not defroster. And then, if you can let a vehicle with a parasitic drain sit overnight in the shop, and it can kind of get to a nice, thermal equilibrium, then you can go in there with that. And a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, man, you can get some pretty good direction on where to go, where that parasitic drain, especially if it's on the heftier side.
Well, I'll say the opposite of Matt. Up here in Minnesota, 9 months out of the year, you park it outside. Then you'll find that real quick, because anything that's above freezing will stand out pretty quickly. On the note of parasitic draws, though, one tool I love having, just it's so small. It's like the Snicker bar sized amp clamp that just has the readout on the front, and it has leads for it to be a voltmeter. But man, do I just love having that thing to clip around wires real quick.
One? You use the ESI one, or is it?
It's a $40 one off Amazon, and it's not super accurate. It floats a bunch, but for quick measurements of amperage, it'll do all the way down to milliamps, and it's just super handy. And if I need something more detailed, I'll get out the amp clamp for the scope. But
because I think
that thing.
The ESI one, I think, is fairly inexpensive as well. Suffers from the same issues, but otherwise, to get the accuracy, you have to have that, fairly good sized jaw opening, and you're using the freaking, Pico 30 amp, not the red one, the black one, the $500-$600 one, or it's made by, I think you can buy a badged Fluke, Meter Man. There's another one I should know, but they're ultimately all the same clamp, and they have about a 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch probably jaw opening, but they're accurate down to 15-20 milliamps, and they don't really float. It's just a little bit of ching.
That's not a little bit of ching. That's like a week paycheck. It's like, be honest here.
No, it hurts.
It doesn't hurt. It's 1 out of 52 weeks, 1 out of 52 paychecks gone. Yeah. Do you ever go to buy a tool and realize, man, this is like 4 paychecks? Why the heck am I buying?
I try not to think about that.
I agree. I try not to think about it.
When you own a small business and you realize you spent like $34,000 in OEM subscriptions in January, you're like, wow, here goes 1/3 of all my yearly sales right there. Maybe more like a 1/6, but yeah.
No, well, yeah, but whatever the number, it's just,
it's just like
that. We've got a few people working for us now that have very limited automotive backgrounds. One of them's a customer service rep. One of them's kind of the lube tech. Both of them women, which have nothing to do with what I'm going to say. That they had no idea what it took to fix vehicles. Like, their jaw dropped at the prices of the equipment and subscriptions. Like, it never occurred to them that somebody walks out front and they want a free code scan, and that scan tool, just pick on the Zeus. If you walk up there with the Zeus, you're going to do a free code scan with a $12, $13, $14, $15,000 scan tool. And it just watching that register with them. And that's one tool. And we've got, dozens and dozens of scan tools and test equipment and, AC machines and all this. Like, oh my God, they had no idea. And all of a sudden that, $100+ an hour labor rate doesn't seem quite so expensive anymore. So
Right.
Well,
if anything, I've hired a couple advocates.
it's funny 'cause, doing ADOS, you show up with that Toyota stand,
Yeah.
and it's a piece of wood with this aluminum bracket that's looks like it's welded by a second grader, and they're like, "You want how much to do this job? You want $350 to calibrate this car? Listen, this stupid stick with this piece of aluminum is like $400. Like, it's dumb."
Yep.
And then, have you bought the little plastic thing yet to measure the angle of the parking sensors for $90? It's like 3D printed plastic that goes on your angle finder. Carry one in my pocket just in case.
Just use my cell phone. What?
I just want to reach to the screen and punch you.
Oh, my hate mail just went up.
Oh, that's funny. Let's see. The U-scope. Oh, I know what my last tool was on my list of 5. The Power Probe 4. Not a multimeter, the Power Probe 4. And the reason I'm saying you don't need a multimeter is we have the U-scope, right? Which will suffice as a functioning voltmeter if you want it to. But then the Power Probe 4 does the resistance check for you. So now I filled in both gaps. And I hate to say this, but as much electrical as I do, I never pull out my multimeter anymore.
I do. Yeah, it's rare. I mean, the Vantage Pro, I use that fairly often, but rarely for the meter function. Maybe the graphing meter. But yeah, you're right. I don't know the last time. It would be for a very specific test. If I have to do an insulation test, I'm not even using the quote unquote meter. I'm using the insulation megger function.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The only meter I would probably buy is the Fluke that has the detachable screen. I don't know which one it is, the model.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
But the screen, the display comes off the meter and it's wireless. And that's the only one I'd buy. And I talked to Carlos about buying it, and he talked me out of it because he's like, well, it eats batteries. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to carry like a 26-pack of batteries with me mobilely, so forget it. So I never bought it because Carlos told me it eats batteries. But that's the only tool that I would maybe replace my Power Probe 4 with. But the downside to the Power Probe 4 is I've been through 4 of them already. So
I got that Snap-on one that you can Bluetooth to your phone and use it similarly.
Okay, now that would be useful.
And you can pick them up used. I don't know why it is, but they keep popping up on my Facebook Marketplace at much more reasonable prices than I paid for it.
Well, let me know, because
my
my
Snap-on bill was
doesn't
getting kind of low, and I felt bad for the guy.
My Snap-on guy hates me.
Yeah, I don't have a Snap-on guy, but I was never the guy that ended up with a jacket or a hat or a cooler or anything like that anyways, so that's probably why I don't have a guy.
Everybody knows I've got at least one Snap-on jacket.
Per year.
Per kid. The kids are all going to school on Snap-on codes.
How many kids you got? Good night.
That I know of.
Oh, that's wrong.
I know.
Well,
Wildly untrue too.
Well, that's like one of the shops bought me a Snap-on jacket as a Christmas present. For going mobile and helping them out. When you're first starting off, you just say yes to everything because you just don't want to go bankrupt. And I did jobs I never should have done. And the guy knew it, and I way undercharged him. So he bought me a Snap-on jacket Florida, like the next year, didn't get any Snap-on jackets because they were the heated ones. And they're like, what idiot in Florida is going to buy a heated jacket? My Snap-on guy was so pissed he couldn't sell them because he's like, everybody wanted to buy the heated jacket. Because, it hits like 50 degrees here. And we're like, oh my God, where's our parka? But yeah, so I don't know. Snap-on's weird. Like they skip years. They'll mail jackets to Florida.
You used to get the big wool socks up here. They would hand those out around Christmas time, and I actually really liked those ones because they were free, but they were actually really nice socks.
That's almost, I think, the only socks I own are Snap-on socks, and not because they say Snap-on on them.
Are they that nice?
They're nice and reasonably priced, I feel like. I mean, we got Red Wing Shoe up here, of course, and they have the Red Wing Shoe socks, and they are very nice. They're more expensive than Snap-on, so I just get a dozen from Snap-on every, 6 months to a year, and I don't know. I like them.
Yeah, so I like my Power Probe 4. I don't know. The downside of my Power Probe is on the 4, it's very more strict on using the ground, right? So I'm a big hey, I can push power here or ground here. For some reason on the 4, if you ground like a relay, that feedback that comes through because you're closing a coil, right, and you get that flyback voltage, it spikes your Power Probe floor and it can break it. And when it's broken because when you put it on the ground, it shows minus 900 volts. Yeah. And you're like, oh, it works, it functions. You just have to now know that ground is negative 900. I don't understand why the 3 doesn't do that, but the 4 does. But it happens, and I've been through 4 of them now.
I've never actually owned a Power Probe.
Do you want one? I'll mail you one.
Well, I've used one. I've worked with people that had one. I've never. I mean, I get it, but I never really felt like I needed one. I was just like,
30 amp ground at your hand at all times. You can blow up. It's just amazing.
I got those retractable leads that if I need to power and ground the back of the vehicle, I just got my 30-foot coil that's a black coil thing. Yeah,
those are great, except for one problem.
Are they on your list? They can't be that good.
No, they're not on my list, and this is why. I wasn't paying attention one day, and I dropped one of the leads, and the positive and the ground lead met on the ground. Sure. And before I could get it apart, I had melted 30-foot of wire on the ground. Because dumbass didn't pay attention when it was dropped where it was landing, so I kept working.
We can't have a top 5. This has got to be like top 50.
Yeah.
I named my top 5: U-scope, U-advanced test kit, the LED incandescent light, a scanner, and my Power Probe.
What am I? I think I'm at like 2. I said the U-scope and the amp hound. Oh, thermal imager, right? I kind of snuck that in there.
Well, you agreed with us on the U-advanced test kit.
All your stuff is. I agree with all your guys' stuff. That's why I don't like the 5 anymore. I want to go. I have a minimum 15 for this show, but it should probably be like 50.
These are the tools you must have to be an A-level tech.
Sean and I were talking about this one time. This is a while ago, but I don't know. I think it was on the phone. We were just BSing, and I had said something where you can tell a savvy or a bright tech who's strong with electrical by looking through their toolbox. And if you see an array of light bulbs with pigtails or leads connected to them, they're probably fairly good at electrical stuff.
If you see a bunch of Scotch locks and it's the opposite.
It's funny. I was putting my transit together and I had to splice some wires. I was like, I gotta have a Scotch lock here somewhere just to make a test connection, right? Like before I start cutting into my van harness, I'm like, a Scotch lock could be great for a test. I searched my whole house. I'm like, I don't have one flipping Scotch lock. My neighbor who builds trailers for a living, I walked over. Hey man, you got any Scotch locks?
Yeah, you guys can get away with it. Us, it breaks in a week.
Yeah.
Listen, I got called and asked if I had a scanner to do a 1993 Honda Civic today.
You put a Scotch lock on a wire in Minnesota in about a week or two, it turns into a pixie stick.
Yep.
But it's not as sweet, and I wouldn't recommend eating it.
Yeah, that green flavor is not the best.
Yeah, you think it's lime, it's really not.
How many times did you eat one before you realized it wasn't a pixie stick?
Twice. I thought the first time I just got a bad one.
But what's funny is my list of 5 is the same 5 tools I'd probably take to go diagnose a blind car.
Hey, you probably do pretty well most of that stuff too. I mean, I find myself grabbing very similar stuff. I mean, I have a bag. It actually was a laptop that I bought, and it came with a black zip-up bag. And I just throw a bunch of stuff like my U-scope and my test lights and that little mini amp thing I was talking about and a few other things. So like that, I just grab, and I don't know, 75% of the time I got everything I need right at the car. I don't have to go back out to my van. It's probably different if you got toolbox in your bay, but
I mean, if I'm going to show up to a car blind, I'm going with my whole truck, right? Like, we're definitely fixing it at that point. But
well, I got one on my list here, and I don't know that I come at it from, or I guess a lot of us come at it from a mobile perspective, but I think this would be really important. Even when I was a tech at Firestone, I should have had one, is a good laptop, honestly. And it's not necessarily a tool to diagnose a car, but I mean, all the things you need that laptop for. I mean, even some of the stuff we talked about, like a JBox or programmer, but having like service info right there on a laptop under the dash or under the hood or something like that.
I'll trade you an iPad.
Ooh, yeah. I need to upgrade to a tablet of some sort.
I got a free iPad when I bought my iPhone, and I was like, what am I going to use this for? Because it has 3G or 5G.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is, right? It's got
probably 5G now.
Yeah, well, this was like when I got my iPhone 7, so it might have been 4G. But they were running some promotion where you get a free iPad mini, and I was like, oh, whatever. Dude, it worked awesome for YTech. And then I found out I was using it for my Identifix, All Data, and Mitchell. So it was really nice because the battery lasted forever. When I broke the screen, I didn't care. I just ordered one off Amazon and slapped it in 10 minutes. So maybe not an iPad necessarily because they're kind of expensive, but you know, something of
tablet
that
of some sort.
Yep.
Yeah, I would not do a laptop for service information.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. I mean, for wiring diagrams and stuff, I suppose that works pretty well with the touchscreen.
I don't have one yet, but I'd like to mess around with a Surface Pro or something like that for that specific purpose.
Yeah, the thing I didn't like about the Surface Pro was the cost. They're kind of they're for what they are, they're really, and then they only come with like one USB port. I'm like, really? I'm paying like $2,000 for a friggin' laptop that has no keyboard and one USB port. What the hell's wrong with you? But my wife has one for work, and I'm not going to say I've borrowed it a couple times and played with it, but it is pretty nice.
Well, the Apple doesn't have any USB ports on it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though. But the Apple is like $1,200, and you're getting a tablet, right? Like it's marketed as a tablet. Where the Surface is like, oh, well, it's a tablet, but it's also a PC. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a useless PC. It's got one USB port. I mean, you go to program an APIM on a 2010 Ford, and you're like, oh, I need 2 USB ports. Oh, let me go get a laptop because my Surface Pro won't work. You know? Like, it's just, I don't know. Now, if you're going to talk laptops, the only laptop to buy is a Dell 5424 Rugged. The damn thing's bulletproof. My kids dropped mine off the counter here at least 16 times. And I've ran it over with a car once, so we're doing pretty good.
Jesus Christ. I have an Acer Predator that I very much like. But I haven't ran over it with a car yet. I'm pretty sure it would not last.
It was upside down. The screen was on the bottom. And I didn't realize I had dropped it out of my truck, and I backed up, and I was like, ooh, that was bad.
Yeah.
It still works.
Yeah, I've had a couple of the tough books, the Panasonics, and they're a little pricier, but
They sure
Oh,
hold
you
up
think-
well for getting slammed around in the van and everything. They pretty durable. So for that aspect, I like it.
I would like to say I probably started the CF53 kick. At least on the 1J page, I started it, and everybody made fun of me. And then when Windows 10 came out as the standard 2 years ago, I said, oh, I got to buy something new. Well, I found the Dell 5424 refurbished from Dell on eBay. And I'm like, what? It was like $1,500 less than new. It was an i8 processor, or i7 processor, 8th generation, 32 gigs of RAM, and like 2.5 gigahertz quad core, right? I'm like, I'm never going to use this up. Oh, and it had a 1 terabyte M2 drive in it. So it's not even the solid state, it's the M2 drive, right? And I was like, well, that hard drive alone is like $1,000. So $1,500 laptop, oh, this is no brainer. And I got it, realized the 1 terabyte wasn't as much space as I was hoping it would be. Ended up buying a 2 terabyte M2 drive. I have a buddy who works at Cisco, and he's like, oh, I got some lying around, because he builds computers as a hobby, so he sold me one cheap. And I called, you have to restore Windows and everything, and I've never done it on a Dell. Well, in Panasonic's world, you have to individually download every driver, right? Install them, and it takes forever. Dell, oh no, they got this command update center. You type in your little 5-digit code that's on the bottom of your laptop. It goes online, downloads all the latest drivers. It exactly is built for your laptop, installs them all in one swoop. I was like, never buying anything but a Dell again. Because eventually your hard drive is going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And when my hard drive used to fail on my Panasonic, it was a solid state drive, but I went through like 2 of them in 4 years. It was like 4 hours to reset that sucker. Downloading all the drivers and installing them and going, oh wait, which version of Intel processor do I have? Do I have this one or this one?
Yeah. Screw
it, just install them all. Right? It took forever. Dell, it was like one button click, and it knows, because it's almost like the as-built data is like, for Ford, you get that code, right? The tear tag. It's like the tear tag for your Dell. It's genius. It's this little code on the back of your laptop. The problem is it's on the back of the laptop on a sticker. So if you scrape the sticker off, you have no idea what the hell it is. But luckily, Dell was smart, and on the newer stuff now, it's actually stored in the BIOS.
Okay.
So now you can look up your tear tag through the BIOS if you need to. So I have found Dell to be just so user-friendly. The little bit more premium you pay for them, if you're not computer savvy, pays off.
So Dell's better than Ford transmission strategy codes.
I don't know how you guys deal with that in Minnesota, man, with the salt. Oh,
those stickers are, if they're there, they're scratched or wiped off of there
every time.
I had a guy 2 days ago go, hey man, I need you to program this transmission. We put a PCM in it, but I don't understand what this is asking. The guy programs all his own stuff, but he didn't read service information. Typical auto mechanic who reads service information. and I said, dude, you got to crawl underneath the car and read this code and just type it in. That's all it wants. And he goes, oh, okay. I'm like, you don't even need me. Like, kind of walked it through him on the phone. Calls me back and he goes, hey man, you want a pro tip? I said, yeah. What? He goes, don't spray brake clean on that sticker. It wipes all the lettering off. I guess the engine had an oil leak and he couldn't read it, and so he wiped it with a rag and it kind of smeared. So he sprayed brake clean on the rag and wiped the sticker, and it was gone.
I did that once with my thumb. I was trying to wipe the sticker off, and I don't know, there's oil or whatever on my thumb. There goes the entire thing. I'm like, oh, come on. Well, yeah, into the valve body we went.
My training shop spray paint the old sticker black, and then they have a sticker they put on there, and it says in glove box. And they put the sticker in the glove box.
That's smart.
Because they've been burned too many times from oil leaks, right?
Sure.
Like they reuse the valve body, but want me to come update the TCM for, just TSB updates. And once in a while, the computer wigs out, right? Things crash. Oh, I need to get the code off the sticker. Now the sticker's gone because oil ate it. So they just put them in the glove box now.
That's not a bad idea.
Oh, and then you guys got to deal with the all-wheel drives and the differential codes in the GM. Oh,
But it's on the top.
yeah. I get one of those like every year, and I struggle to remember where the code is located on the diff. 'Cause nobody has all-wheel drive in Florida.
Yeah, the first time I did that, I was looking at it and I was like, where the heck is this number? And yeah, it's like you got to get it with a mirror, your camera on your phone to get it on top. Is it on the connector or is it on the module? I don't remember.
It's on the module on top of the differential.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and you take your phone and you hold it all the way up with the flashlight on and take a picture, but you can't see what it's seeing, so you're just like click, 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 click.
Yeah,
You
burst
take like 15,
shot.
yeah, you take like 15 pictures and then you scroll through them and you're like, oh, this one works. And then it never fails. Invalid code. What? So those are my 5 tools. Matt, what do you got? You got to have another one.
I got a lot.
What are your
talking
top
about-
50 tools? Let's
Top 50. It's hard for me to get away from the and maybe slightly left field, but the diagnostic box TDB 003 for immobilizer key type issues, where you get to the point where you kind of need to know, is the key itself good, and is the halo even trying to excite the transponder? And then for prox keys, again, is the antennas even trying to talk to the key? And that I don't know, it just seems to answer a lot of questions quickly for a very low price.
You're talking about the one that tests the proximity keys.
Yeah.
You can put the proximity key in there and it tells you if it's emitting a signal.
Yep.
And then it has the additional piece you can plug in for the...
Yep, like a little wand if you want. Yep.
Yeah,
or you
I
can
didn't...
hold it up to the halo area.
Does
depending on
AES
the
Wave
key
sell
type.
the wand?
I think they get everything now for diagnostic box, because they have more than just the 003. They got like a 008 and I think a 006.
They don't have a 007, or I'd buy it just to say
Just
007. Just because of the name.
I think they have like a full blown key programmer.
It's weird.
Yeah, I've never used it. I don't know. I think DeFazio might have one. Keith DeFazio might have one, but I've never seen one live or used one, and I think they're, they get a good amount of money for them. I think, all I've seen are his videos with them. It seems capable.
It works well, but it's weird because it's like a Game Boy. It's like black and white. You just
Yeah,
down,
right.
have yes and no. Like it's just weird to me. Like as a key program, like I need icons in a GUI. If it doesn't have a GUI, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, but for like $300 or $350, that TDB 003.
I don't even think it's that much.
Yeah, maybe it's not.
Because I bought that. My Ultra got sent with 2 broken scope leads. And so I bought the scope leads from Carlos because he makes the best friggin' scope leads.
Right.
And I got the scope leads, the DB 003, the new fuse adapters, because I was sick of ghettoing fuse adapters from my U Advanced test kit. That's the other thing. If you don't have an adapter, the U Advanced test kit makes an adapter out of the 50 parts. I get sick of ghettoing stuff together finally, and I ordered that. I want to say it was like $500 for all 3 of those things. So,
yeah.
And the scope leads were probably 150 of it.
Yeah, I find myself using it. It just answers questions for me quickly.
Well,
is it even trying to excite the key? Is the key even working? And then if there's any question, sometimes the Key Tool Max.
Oh boy, that's a versatile tool there. I just got it a couple weeks ago. It can do quite a bit for what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, except the battery only lasts 5 minutes if it's under 120 degrees outside. Fuck
It does. There's some overlapping capabilities with the diagnostic box, but with like the testing of the key itself and the antenna, it doesn't do proxy, but it does the regular.
The Key Tool Max doesn't do proxy.
Does or does not?
Does not.
Yeah, it does. So the Key Tool, the TDB003, the diagnostic box does proxy. The Key Tool Max does not.
Yes, I was trying to distinguish that for the listener.
It's an important designation. Yeah, it's very important to make sure we're on top of that, because what it does do that's nice is you can build the vehicle into the Key Tool Max, and then when you go test the key, it not only verifies that the key is good, it lets you know that it's the right key. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that runs into this, where people come in, it's like, hey, I bought these keys off eBay, I bought them off Amazon, I bought them from goodkeys.com, and could you program them? Well, let me check quick. No, they're not even the right one. Wrong chip, wrong whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it saves a lot of freaking time. It just saves a lot of time. And then there's more capability with the Key Tool Max that is it resetting? Would that be the right word to use? Some of the keys.
Yeah,
for the remotes and stuff.
For the remote keyless entry.
Yeah, like the Chryslers.
Yeah, they'll be locked, quote unquote locked, and the Key Tool Max will allow you to go in and unlock them so they can be programmed to another car, or learn to another car, whatever terminology we want to use.
I actually had to wait for mine to charge so I could unlock a key. But I did a Win module and totally forgot to tell the shop, hey, if this doesn't work, there'll be 2 keys added onto that, and it's X amount more. And so because I forgot, I wasn't just gonna charge them because I feel bad. I mean, I could have, and the guy probably would have paid it, not have cared. But I just feel like, I don't know. I have my rules and I stick to them. It's probably why I'm poor. So I wasted the hour to unlock the keys because I had to wait like 20 minutes for the stupid tool to charge enough to even turn on, and then solder the 4 wires onto the one Chrysler, reset it, and move it over. But it does work well on them.
Yep.
I don't know what they call. I call them the Mercedes Chrysler keys because they have the Mercedes head.
Tiptronic? No, Fabic.
Yeah,
Fabic.
I think it's the Fabic keys. It does work well on those if you get an unlocked one. But
I must be super lucky because I've done so many of those Win modules, and I'm always, because I've heard people say that you got to do new keys, and I don't know, knock on wood, every single one of mine I've done, the old keys work.
Well, here's what's funny: the lady had 3 keys, 1 worked, 2 didn't.
Huh.
And what's really interesting is I unlocked them, and they all worked. But I've had it to where you can just add 1 new key and then it'll take the other one. So then I take my new key with me still, right? Because then it's weird. Once you learn 1 key, it seems to accept anything. I don't understand.
Right.
But there's companies that sell these universal Fabic keys for $30, and it's every button configuration. And so
I have a few of them.
Yep. Yeah, I keep them in my truck, and I'm just like, doop, here you go.
Yeah, it's blue something. Blue
Rocket.
Yeah, there. Yeah.
Blue Rocket from American Key Supply.
Yep. Yeah, few of those kits. They've, knock on wood, they've worked really well for me.
The only time I've had an issue is the remote start ones.
Oh, I suppose.
But it's been 2 keys out of 30 I've sold. And they don't like getting wet. I don't. It rains a lot here, so people get the keys wet all the time. The one tool I like, that's really odd to have, and almost nobody has it, is the parking antenna sensor detector for the Pico.
Yeah.
And I have the old school ones where it's this long, where it's a foot long.
Super short, yeah.
And no, it's a foot long rod, and they weren't labeled for which one's which.
Yeah. And
so I'll plug it in, and I'm like, oh, it's not working. Let me go get my other lead. And then, oh, now it's working. So I'd like to get the new ones where it's only 1 inch long, but those things, they'll save your bacon on testing door handles, testing parking sensors. They are well worth their weight in gold.
You're talking about like the sonar type parking sensors, like in the rear bumper.
Yeah, the ultrasonics.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
So
if you
I have that lead for the Pico, but I always end up just pulling out. I mean, most of the time I pull out the stethoscope and I just listen to hear if they're clicking.
yeah, but the problem is on the newer cars, unless it's in reverse, they're not on. And I don't trust none of these assholes that are in the body shop not to run me over.
I suppose so.
But I done yelled at them 16 times for not plugging stuff in. So, you think they'd learn by now, but no. Yeah, I like those a lot. Granted, I still have to have them put it in reverse, but at least I'm not like bending down with the stethoscope right there, I'm standing up, so I can at least move when they let go of the brake. But those are the door handle one's the best.
I've never tried it on a door handle.
Well, there's two different leads. There's one for the parking sensors and one for the door handle, and they don't work on the opposite one, so you got to know which one's which.
Gotcha.
But like for example, Chryslers on the newer cars, there's a little magnet inside the door handle. Not the handle, the cap that goes over where like the door lock is. And when the techs take it off, they don't pay attention and they just throw it in their cart. Well, it knocks the magnet out. That magnet closes a latch in the door handle that tells the door handle it's closed. If that's not closed, the little button on the handle will not work. And it's the dumbest design, but it's so funny because as soon as you look up service information and see how it works, and you end up with a code that says like no communication with door handle or something stupid. It's a really odd code, and you look it up, and you'll if you're like me and you read through all the testing procedures first, it gets to a step where it says please pull out paperclip and see if it sticks to this side, and you're like, what the hell? And then it says if paperclip doesn't stick, check for magnet. Well, shit, that's the first step I'm going to because they took the door off. Nope, nothing sticks. And then what's really sad is the front door handles have it, but not the rear. So, and the caps fit on any door. So now you got to go through and test all the caps because like they'll put the two that have the magnet on the passenger side, and so now you got to take it off the rear and put it on the front door. God knows. I see the most weird stuff in body shops, but that's one that I pulled out the antenna the first time and the tester, and you're going through all these steps, and you're like, check for magnet. Oh shit, just started with that. And it's a real dinky magnet. When you see one, you're going to be like, this is dumb. It's not even glued in. It's a press fit magnet. And it's press fit in plastic. So good luck in Minnesota with your weather.
Yeah, right. That's how they used to do it with my Lego kits when I was a kid. They had a little round magnet that you'd put in a certain Lego and then it would stick things together.
But that's another one that I don't use it every day, but being in body shops with ADOS and parking assist and blah, 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 it's one of the tools that I could not live without. I mean, we could get into ADOS. Like, I couldn't live without my ADOS stuff, but that's like a whole other level of expensive, stupid.
See, top 50.
Top 50. J-Box. I think every shop should have a J-Box at this point in their lives.
And a lot of them have them. They don't even know it.
That's what's really sad.
Right? It's almost the same as like back in the day with the Snap-on scan tools. They never knew they had a scope.
No, they knew they had a scope.
They don't even know they have a J-Box.
They knew they had a scope because it came with the leads.
You just never saw the light of day.
I went to a shop the other day and the guy's like, I'm thinking about learning how to use my Modus after all these years. I'm like, I think it's time to throw that Modus away. But like the Ultra is, I mean, if you can afford it as a tech, that's the tool to buy. I mean, you get the 4-channel scope, you get the J-Box that has all the new protocols for today, May 13th, 2021 cars. So if you listen to this in 3 years, you're not like, hey, this thing sucks. Make sure we date it. It has all the protocols for today's cars. The scanner's fantastic. And I used to complain about the size of the Ultra, because if you haven't seen it, that sucker is massive.
You get an Autel back brace with it, right?
Yeah, it should come with one. But I love the size of the screen now. Like now I'm like, why would you have anything smaller after having it for a month?
Well, you can dual screen, right? You can do or split screen, right?
Split screen. The problem with it is I do a lot of test driving after I do ADOS, so I have the VCM-I because it's Vehicle Communication Module Interface. I keep saying VCM-1 because it's a habit. And it doesn't look like an I because it's a capital I, so I thought it was one forever until somebody at Alltel made fun of me. So, but if you put that in the seat that weighs 5 pounds, and then you put the 25-pound tablet in the seat, you have to buckle the seatbelt. Otherwise, you're driving down the road and you're going, what the hell is dinging? I actually, the first day I got it, I had an Audi that was... it was a dynamic radar because it was new. So I was like, I'm going to try my Alltel. And so I put it in the seat and it kept dinging. And I'm like, why is this dinging? And it finally dawned on me a couple minutes going down the road because the seatbelt lights like in an odd spot for the passenger. And so I was like, oh, that's why it's dinging. So I made a video and it was like, how you know you made a scan tool that's too heavy. And I send it to everybody I know who sells the Alltel tool. And I'm like, check this out. Oh, it's in the cluster by the mileage. That's where the seatbelt symbol is. Like it's in a spot I never would have looked. So what I did was I put the little VCM1 or VCM. See, I did it there. The VCMI in the seat, and I said, "Look, no seatbelt light." And I put the tablet there, and I was like, "Look, seatbelt light."
Well, now you don't have to carry around as many weights for doing passenger presence calibrations. You got the Autel to take the place of the 25 pounder.
It sucks because I used to know my Panasonic CF53 weighed 8 pounds in a Honda seat because I tested so many Honda seats. It told me it weighed 8 pounds. Well, Honda got rid of that feature. It's just a 0. So now I have no idea what it weighs. So I'm like dying to get like an older Honda that needs the calibration so I can be like, look at that. It does weigh 20 pounds. The other tool that's really heavy, if you haven't played with one, is the Bosch scanner. But the reason theirs is so heavy, they use Gorilla Glass, so it's like unbreakable. But when you pick it up, you're like, holy Jesus! It just wants to flip to the glass side because it's a real thin tool, but that Gorilla Glass is so thick and heavy. When I first got mine, I'm like, what's the deal with this?
It's probably handy for in shops, though.
I ran it over with a truck. My kid knocked it out of my truck, and I didn't know. He was playing in my truck, and I kept it on my passenger floorboard when I first got it. And I laughed, and the babysitter called me, and she's like, "Hey, we found this black bag in the yard. Is this yours?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what's in it." She's like, "Well, there was something in there with a screen. It's in like 1 million pieces now." And I'm like, "Well, turn it on." Dude, it booted up and turned on. I sent it into Bosch warranty, and they were like, "What happened to it?" I'm like,
Florida sun, man.
Yeah, I'm like, it's harsh on things, man. But I mean, it still actually functioned, like, because it has the HDMI display, so just for giggles, I wanted to see if it worked. So I plugged in like a monitor and hooked it up. It still functioned. I ended up getting a new screen and a new Wi-Fi card. But it's super durable, but super heavy.
But not durable enough to get ran over by a truck.
No, not durable enough. Yeah.
There's a limit. All right.
There is a limit. Well, it's like when I bought my Kardec 3, I'm friends with David Bartman because of the J page, and I was like, "Hey, how durable is this thing?" I'm pretty rough on tools, man. Like if it's breakable, I'm gonna break it. And he's like, "Well, we ran it over with a car several times to make sure it was durable for tax. We don't recommend it, but we did test it." I'm like, "Perfect." Yeah, I had a brand new. I sent my Elite in, had a screen put in it, had it less than 24 hours, and I called Maurice. "Hey, buddy, so does that warranty cover more than one screen a year? Because I might have broke mine today." He's like, "You just got it back." He was not happy with me.
Yeah, you're rougher on those things than I am. I always scratch up the screens for sure. Throw them around the back of the van, but I don't know. I've been pretty good on not breaking the screens. But
The problem for me is I know I'm going to use my scanners on like every job. So I leave my 608 and my Elite on my passenger seat in my truck.
Okay.
And at some point, somebody will pull out in front of me or run a stop sign, run a red light, and you slam on the brakes and they slide up, they hit the dashboard and they fall down. And that's what breaks the screen. It's not me personally. It's just that's why I can't wait to get the van, because they'll be in a little drawer, right? Like,
Sure.
Then knowing my luck, like somebody will hit me and the whole van will roll, and I'll be like, look, every one of them broke. New record, 12 screens in one day.
Yeah, that's the worst. You get the panic stop and your whole back of your van's rearranged now. Like,
you hear everything too.
Yeah, right. Looking for something later, like, where is this? I know I put it on this shelf here. It's at the front of the freaking van, rolled all the way up there.
And it always happens on a day where it's like raining and you're super busy, so you really don't even want to take the time to put stuff back. And then after you panic stop, you're like, wow, I should have hit the car. It would have been cheaper.
I don't think we said Pico, but get a Pico too.
I mean, I guess if you're gonna see, I don't know though. Like the Ultra Scope is so nice. I'm really debating on selling my Pico now that I have my Ultra. I mean, it is night and day above what they used to have for a scope. Have you played with your Ultra yet, Fanslow?
I don't have I have a 909.
I thought you got an Ultra.
I've been told it's in the mail. So
I'm gonna make some phone calls tomorrow and be like, hey.
Yeah, I haven't got a chance to use it. I have a couple of the 408s, right?
Okay, yeah, I have a 408. I like it, but the Ultra Scope, the interface is way nicer. It's freaking wireless.
Yeah. Wireless 4-channel, right? Not 2-channel.
Yes, wireless
4-channel.
4-channel. Pico is like behind the times now. They need to step it up.
I know, back when I worked for one of the distributors that became Pico USA, that was really high on the list of things to do. And they just felt like the only way they were going to be able to have the data transfers high enough was to have their own proprietary communication, wireless communication. And they just said, nope. Then that could change. Now that I've said this, it's probably going to be tomorrow. They're going to come out with something wireless, but
4425 AW.
Yeah, I think they're just going back. They're sticking with the USB 3 and whatever the next, is it USB 3 plus, whatever that is?
No, C.
So I think that's...
I mean, the Autel works because it works off of a... What is it? C wireless network, right?
It could be.
Yeah, I think we're at like A, B, C. I think C is the new one of the newer wireless network protocols. So the VCMI has a wireless card in it, and then your Ultra tablet has 2 wireless cards. So it's its own wireless network.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, and it works great. I was scoping some can lines on a Chrysler for a blind spot issue, and I was sitting in the driver's seat, like turning the car off and on, going, wow, this is the best freaking tool in the universe because it's wireless. It took me a little bit to realize one of my leads is broken, but yeah, that was our story.
Yeah, with non-secure gateway modules, you can kind of scope the lines at the DLC through the scan tool, correct?
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. You can do that.
I'm hoping they come out with a relative compression test through the OBD with the VCM. I mean, there's no reason you can't do it.
Absolutely.
You've got the scope and you got the 16 volts right there in the ground.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think there might be some nervousness about copyright infringement from a certain person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you haven't got to play with one, it's neat to play with. But when you pick it up, you're gonna be like, damn. I mean, my 608, the entire 608 can sit on just the screen.
Jeepers.
It's that big. And then it's got a steering wheel holder. My next video is going to be like, who uses this? because on my Silverado, if you put the steering wheel holder up, stick it on the steering wheel, it covers the entire steering wheel. I mean, it's
So-
massive.
I got one of these laptop holders that goes on the steering wheel. Finally, I saw somebody on Facebook using it, so I ordered it. That is the slickest thing to be.
What?
Just have that little laptop holder on the steering wheel.
What is this, and why wasn't this in your top 5?
Right?
I don't know.
even
Did
think
he
about
get
it till now.
5? He might have just made it.
Yeah, we'll say this is 5. It just sits on the bottom of the wheel, and you got a little plate there. I mean, you could.
I don't know.
Punch
I'm getting
off of
kind
it
of
if you
fat
wanted
from
to.
being mobile and eating too many McDonald's burgers. I don't know if I
Yeah, how
could.
far
Or
back does
Nestle
that seat
Crunch
go?
bars before podcast.
Hey, it was only one box.
Okay. You ate it, and I watched you eat it, and I got fatter. It sucks. Freaking
come
sucks,
from the-
man.
As my son calls it, the dollar buck store. And they cost $1 buck. If you have kids and you won't have Disney Plus, please watch Bluey. It's a great show. It's based in Australia, and they call them dollar bucks.
They got the Mighty Ducks.
Oh, that is the
series on there
best.
now. It was actually really good. I'm still going. It's not over, but I really
Really?
enjoyed that
They-
quite a bit.
The only problem with it was they kind of like ruined Gordon Bombay and just reused the same storyline. And I'm like, you couldn't have come up with something a little better? Just
Yeah.
a little? Yeah. I saw episode 7's out, so as soon as we're done with this podcast, I'm going to stay up for another 40 minutes and watch episode 7. You know what's funny is the one thing I wish I had, and I don't have, is them stupid expensive test leads for the CAN FD networks to scope. I don't have, or Pico
Yeah,
makes
the
them.
passive. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't have those, and I really would love a set.
yeah.
But I don't know what
I
they
don't think
are.
they're that expensive though.
They're more than you think. They're a couple $100 last time I looked.
How often do you run into where you might actually need something like that?
For me, a lot, because you're right, like, hey, this car just got blasted in the front left, and
Okay.
we have these network problems. Like, I have other ways to figure it out. Like, hey, how come we don't put the 4 modules that are in 20 pieces in it and see what happens from there, right? Because either way, you need the modules. But it'd be nice to be able to just disconnect them and scope it and see what it looks like. Not that I'd have any idea, because you're never going to have a known good. But, yeah, I mean, my day today was a 2021 Honda, a 2021 Nissan, a 2021 Chrysler, and then I had a 2020 Audi. So, I mean, it's not like I'm working on old stuff that I can just say, hey, anybody on Facebook got a waveform for this?
Yeah, dude, my stuff ranges 1968 GTO and 20
Huh. Vacuum controlled fuel injectors. Nice.
yeah 2019 Renegade, 2017 Jetta. It's just all over the board.
I don't work on hardly anything more than 6 years old.
03 Miata.
How is that still around up there?
They store them. The Miatas, the convertible, they store them. That's the fun car. So you got different tiers of people. You got the Miata. Well, okay, you want to go way back. We got some MGs.
Yeah.
What's an
And then you
MG?
A
Little
midget.
British, a little British car. Looks a lot like a Miata, old Miata. And then
I'm not old enough to know what an MG is.
Yeah. Then you have the Miatas, and then you have the be like the maybe Porsche Boxsters and the BMW. There's 2 of them.
Yeah. There's a Honda too.
Oh,
like
this
the
Z4
S2000.
Oh, the S2000, and
The
then
Z4 and the
Z3 or Z4.
Yeah, they could have Z3 in half in one of the 007 movies. With the helicopter with the spinny blades.
So those don't rust away because those get stored over the winter, and they're strictly summer and fall cars.
So you drive them 2 weeks out of the year. Nice.
This year they might get 3, but yeah, I don't know. Just get a shotgun splatter pattern of vehicles. That's
Yeah, when somebody calls me and tells me their car's like a 2001, I'm like, yeah, I'm not your guy. Have a good day. Like, I hate to say it, but I just am like, I'm so used to 2021 now that when somebody calls on an '01, it takes me so long to go, oh, that's how that worked back then? Oh, yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, it's like
But-
jumping back to an OBD1 vehicle, and you're used to the OBD2 port connector, just nice and standardized, and then you got all the different connectors and flash codes. And
What do you mean this EGR isn't pulse width modulated controlled? Everything's pulse width like it's...
Well, yeah, the Miata looking at scan data. And that most 2003s aren't that slow, but the Miata, the update rate, the refresh rate is so horrific. It's so horrific.
Your Autel's like waiting for response from a car.
Yeah. Like the hourglass thing. It's just, holy hell. It was bad. It's so bad.
Yeah, I just avoid them cars now. I don't. But I have all the shops call me when they get a brand new car, like, "Hey, we don't even know how this EcoBoost turbo works. Can you come look at it?"
And I've been getting a rash of vehicles that have two real issues that contribute to a single symptom. So like a Chevy truck that comes in that idles poorly and lacks power. And I don't like skipping over obvious issues. You know what I mean? Like I don't like trying to, okay, I know this is bad, let's ignore it and try to dig deeper. I hate doing that depending on what it is. So the Chevy trucks, like the 5360s, the plastic, well, I guess all of them now are plastic intakes, but one of my favorite tests with those is to take a garden hose and just start soaking along the fuel rails and that. And especially when the engine's on the cooler side, they suck the water in and either smooth out really good, idle really nice, or they idle that much worse and steam starts rolling out the back. So that's what I've multiple, not just Chevy trucks, but just cars in general where, all right, I know this is bad. How much further do I want to start hopping around and trying to overcome what this is contributing to for the lack of power complaint? And so then we do the intake, and then that now idles nicely, take it out on the road, and I get this massive fuel trim split side to side, and I got a partially restricted cat. And that one's probably a bad example. I could probably get nailed that one, but it just seems to be this rash of vehicles where.
But you're beating yourself up. But how many other techs would have gone, "Oh, hey, the intake leaks, so I'm going to check for a bad cat."
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's what we get with these old vehicles, though. Like you said, you don't want to work on the older stuff, and I don't blame you. The high mileage, old beat up Suburban that I had in, and it was running rich, super, super rich, and it's a fuel pressure regulator inside the intake manifold, the old Spider one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, put a regulator in there. It's easy. They all go out, and oil change, you'll be good to go. Well, they do that, and then it's complete opposite. It's lean codes like crazy. The fuel trims are the complete opposite direction. Well, they needed a mass airflow sensor too, so I had to go back to do that on top of it because they still got a light on or whatever. But
yeah, it
had two problems, and it was driving around like that for who knows how long. And that's what people don't understand about their car is it's not just one thing with this old 200,000 mile vehicle. It's busted.
Yeah. And that's the real issue I have with working on the older ones. It's one, the shop's already thrown 20 parts at it, right? And most of the times, if it's an older car, they're not buying quality parts. It's, hey, what's at Advanced Auto Parts or discount at the cheapest price, right? So you don't even know if the new part, which never ever worked to begin with, we still don't know if it works. And then you might end up with a car like you guys have where there's 2 or 3 problems in it. And I'm going, well, it's going to take me 2 or 3 trips to fix it. You're expecting it fixed now. Like, the headache of not having the shop is what kind of drives me away from them more than anything else. But yeah, you can get some stupid problems.
Just never ends.
Yeah. I still like when a guy rear ends somebody in the Chevy trucks, but he's like got an eighth a tank of gas, So it's just enough to where all the gas flies forward, and then it flies backwards, and it snaps off the fuel pump, and the car doesn't run. The insurance company's like, well, that's not our problem. That's in the back. He hit somebody in the front. You're like, well, you think you rear-ended somebody with a broken fuel pump? No, we did not.
Yep. Yeah, or the vehicles, they do whatever job to it. Timing belt, timing chains. And they get done with it. It doesn't run, doesn't start, or it runs horrifically. And then, okay, tune up, fuel system service, whatever it is, all these parts. Finally gets to the point where it's like, okay, needs a computer, quote unquote computer. Got to send it down to me to get programmed. Doesn't fix it. Okay, well, this is what we did, and ever since, and then we did all this other stuff, and that's a significant amount of money invested in this vehicle. And either, the obvious thing is, right, they didn't get the cam timing right, or they didn't follow service information for putting the cams and specifically the phasers to make sure they were in the right position to be lined up, by the marks, or they loosened up the friction fit pulleys, so now they're no longer clocked right with the cam itself, or crank, depending on which one it is. In other cases, they take the freaking reluctor, when they took it all apart, and the reluctor plate will separate from whatever piece they took off, like a balancer, a harmonic balancer, and then they put it on 180 degrees, flipped. I don't mean like a clock from 12 to 6, but I mean they took it and flipped it face to face. If that makes sense. Instead of the what was facing the front of the vehicle is now facing the back of the vehicle, and they caused the problem, and all that money got dumped into it. To track that down, and then they're almost upset at you for having to charge them, even if you lucked out and nailed it in an hour. Now you're the bad guy for hitting them for whatever, 150,
oh yeah, they just spent $5,000 in parts.
Yeah, it's like, well, dude, if you'd have brought it down right away, you'd have saved money.
Yeah. So
it's not like I rub your face in it. I don't make fun of you. I don't even. Well, depending on who you are, I might rib you a little bit. But
I had a good one at a body shop. It was a Mini Cooper, and a mutual friend of ours helped me a little bit, just a little bit. And so the body shop got it from the dealer, because the dealer wouldn't put a used engine in it, right? Because it's BMW Mini, right? They're like super strict, new only. Well, the body shop got it. They put a used motor in it. Guy started up, let it run in his bay for an hour. It ran fine. Made sure the coolant burped right, yada, yada, yada. So then this manager goes, hey, I'm going to take this to lunch. Takes it to lunch, comes back, still runs good. The service writer goes, hey, I'm going to go to lunch now because there's just one of them. So then the service writer takes it to lunch, comes back, still running fine. The other tech drives him around the block a little bit, still runs fine. They decide the service writer's going to take it one more test drive, make sure, no issues. So they're going to call the customer. He makes it 10 feet down the road, and the car just dies. Won't restart. So I'm coming down to an ADAS calibration. He goes, hey, will you look at this? And I warn him up front, like, look, I'm not like a BMW expert. I can program them because you just hit a button and kind of walk away. So I'm good at programming. Not so good at how the stuff works. So I start looking at it and checking, because I hear all those horror stories in those minis, those 4-cylinders, about the ground at the valve cover, right, being left loose and destroying the DME. So the first thing I do is pull a little cover off, check it, up, ground's tight, voltage drop the ground up, ground's good. Okay. So then crank it over. It kind of sounds like it's going to start, right? Like it's like, like it almost starts. And I'm like, man, it really sounds like it's out of gas. I wonder if the fuel gauge just doesn't work. So I get some brake clean, because I carry brake clean in the truck. Spray it in the intake. It starts, right? It runs just fine. Now, granted, the car was just towed to me from being broke on the road because I was there doing an ADOS. Starts and runs, and I'm like, dude, it seems like it's out of gas. Like, are you sure there's gas in it? So the guy's like, oh, I'll bring my gas can in the morning. We'll put gas in it. And I was like, okay. So the next day, he calls me up, 9:30. Hey, guess what? Gas didn't fix it. Well, not totally surprised. I figured I would maybe get lucky, but, so far my stocks aren't doing good, and neither is my diagnostic. So, hey, win-win. So I go down there, and this time I really start looking at it, and I pull coil out. And I mean, when the shop did the motor, they put 4 brand new BMW coils in it, 4 brand new BMW spark plugs in it, because the old valve cover leaked, and the plug coils, are also. And so the tech says, hey, look, man, I even went so far as to change over, because the used motor, they use the used cam and crank sensors, but they use the original wire harness. He goes, look, I even put the original cam and crank sensor back in. It still doesn't start. Well, okay, thanks for letting me know. So I pull the coil out, check for spark. 0 spark on any coil. I'm like, well, that's why it doesn't run. Hey, good job. So I text a mutual buddy of ours to get some information. He's like, oh, it's probably the DME. Check the ground. I'm like, hey, check the freaking ground. The ground's good, right? I'm like screaming at him. And he's like, well, I'd get a DME for it. I'm like, oh, man, I don't know if I want to call it. It's like $2,000 for a DME. And I'm like, what if there's something else just telling it not to spark? Now, granted, this mutual friend did tell me, well, did you check cam and crank? And I'm like, yeah, I checked it, right? I pulled up my ISTA, and I can read desired phaser, and it's right where it should be. And I got RPM signal. So obviously the crank sensor's working, right? That's my assumption. So put a DME in it. It doesn't start. Uh-oh. I'm in it like $2,000, right? And the shop owner's like, so what are you going to do about the DME? And I'm like, well, there goes about 1/7 of my monthly sales profit for the year. It feels like it's gone, right? So I'm like, well, I called it. I'll buy it if I'm wrong, right? So I had to send it to the dealer to get programmed because it wanted a code for a speed limiter. So I said, look, just have them diagnose it. If it's something I missed, I'll just pay the bill, right? And we'll work this out. Just have them look at it. So I didn't hear anything from like 2 days. Well, our mutual friend texts me back and says, hey, you still got that Mini that doesn't start? And I said, yes, I do. Why? He goes, go scope the cam and crank, because I bet you when they put the used motor in it, the reluctor, where it is for the crankshaft, you can bend it slightly. And it'll cause it to see a double down dip. And he goes, I have a shop that happens to have a motor, same situation. You ran for a couple hours, and now it won't start again. And they scope the cam and crank, and there's 2 full downs for a top dead center. And he goes, they have no spark, and they already put a DME in it. Then they asked me to come look at it. And so I called the shop manager. Hey, man, which Mini dealer did you tow that to? I want to go look at it. Oh, we just totaled it because Mini says it's an internal engine problem. They said there's something wrong with the crank. There's got to be something wrong with the crank reluctor that's causing it not to spark. Yes. And, of course, they just want to put a new engine in it. But still, for the shop to be paid, because you don't know if it got bent at the junkyard, if they bent it pulling it in. So, of course, the insurance company assumes it was bent prior. So they totaled the car. But, I mean, that car totally kicked my butt over something that you're just like, I never would have thought. Because in BMW service information, it says if you have RPM, you will have spark. You don't even need crankshaft sensor or camshaft sensors. Just RPM from the crank, because there's only one down check for top dead center, and that's it. That's all it needs to spark. So, yeah, this is why I don't work on junk old cars anymore, because that one cost me quite a bit of money.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh man!
But it does make for a good story.
Yeah.
About how to lose your lunch and to make sure you scope something from now on. But yeah, so I don't work on old cars anymore or used parts. Do you guys do a lot of used parts in Minnesota, or are they all just rotted away?
No, there's lots and lots of used parts, but I don't know. Sometimes those are better than the new parts, honestly.
Well, okay, we're not talking ECUs. I more meant like.
No, he's right. Even, I mean, you name it. depending
Yeah.
on what it is. I mean, window motors and regulators.
Yeah, I'd
Sometimes you're
rather
better
see a
off going
used
down and
one.
getting a used one than you are.
Really? Yeah. We can't build window regulators in 2021 yet.
No.
Wiper motors, alternators.
It used to be easy to just pick on like A1 Cardone and Dorman and stuff like that, but it's
Doorstop.
extended. It is totally extended out beyond.
Those are my calls I get a lot of the time is they put, 3 or 4 alternators in something and it's still not charging. And I go and I'm like, it's an alternator. I'm like, I'm double checking what I'm doing because I'm like, it can't possibly be a 4th alternator. Yep.
Yeah, off the cuff. I mean, I don't have my ducks in a row on this, but there was a Jeep, same thing. And it was like 4 or 5 alternators. And it ended up being an alternator. And it wasn't just the aftermarket ones, it was the OE ones were boxed wrong. Almost like the Ford Smart alternators back in the
Yes.
That's not going way back, but it's
I had one burn me. So 7 alternators I installed.
Yeah. They're boxed. They're freaking boxed wrong.
They put the wrong rectifier on there, rectifier regulator, and it wouldn't accept the PCM signal to charge. But when you got over 3,000 RPM, it would charge.
Yep. Auto excite. Same thing with this Jeep. The
I had
Jeep charged like crazy. The light never would go off, and it would set the code. And it's like, what do you do? And everybody's losing faith in you, right? That's probably one of the more annoying things. Like you work really hard to develop a reputation of not, pretty rare you're outright wrong. And if you are, everybody makes a mistake, or you had every reason to be wrong. Like the data pushed you a certain way. And now it's like all of a sudden they lose their faith in you so quickly. Like, well, no, it can't be.
It can't be 6 alternators in a row. You're not correct.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was talking to our sales rep, and I guess they're having problems. They're boxing them wrong. Or we made the big switch, Advance and CarQuest are merging, and there's, miscommunications or whatever, and the part number swapping, and you got a rash of wrong parts. Well, I understand stuff happens, but no, you're trashing me because it has to be an alternator. What else can it be? And
I had a Sprinter that I told them to put an alternator in. They put an alternator in, still wasn't charging. I went and I'm looking at the alternator as it's running, and I could see the fan blade on the inside, through the opening in the alternator, and it's like barely moving around as the engine's running at idle. And I stuck my pocket screwdriver in it and I stopped the inside of the alternator. I was like, oh, there's your problem.
That's awesome.
I had a used car
What's
shop.
the worst that could happen? I love it.
You got some bigger cojones than I do with that story. It's like I had a shop call me. It's a used car lot, and I just try to avoid them like they're the bubonic plague mixed with COVID, right? And he calls me up and he goes, "Hey, I got this 2013 Hyundai Genesis 2.0 turbo. It stalls at a red light. I've done the low pressure fuel pump, the high pressure fuel pump. Maybe it's newer because it's direct injection, right? I've done low pressure fuel pump, the high pressure fuel pump. I've done cam sensors, crank sensors, and I put a new throttle on it. It still stalls." And I'm like, "Is it an electric throttle?" "Yes." "Did you put an OEM one on it?" "No." "Put an OEM one on it. Call me back." "It's $1,800. "Okay, well, call me back when you put an OEM one on it." I'm like, the only thing that's going to cause it to stall at an idle, because this was his exact story, if I lightly put my foot on the gas, not even raise it 50 RPM, it won't stall. I'm like, it's got to be the throttle. And he's like, "Arr." I'm like, "Get a used one. Put it on there." Well, he couldn't find a used one. He calls me back 3 days later. "I bought one from Advance, Discount, CarQuest, Napa. It still does it. It's not the friggin' throttle." "Did you put an OEM one on it?" "No." "Don't call me back till you put an OEM one on it." Guy calls me next day. "I hate you." "Why?" "Put an OEM throttle on it. It's fixed." Huh. But it was $1,800 for that OEM throttle. And the discount parts stores was $350. Like, there's a reason.
We had a Mini Cooper with the needed valve cover or cam cover, whatever you call it, with the
Rocker
crankcase
arm.
ventilation system built into it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got it from Mini. Took 3 of them. Nice thing is they didn't really hesitate. This is like a known issue.
That would piss me off.
Right from the friggin' dealer.
Yeah, when I first started my company, I had the Ford Smart Alternator, and I'll never forget it. It was a shop, and I'm talking like top quality shop. Like, their owner's an A+ diagnostic tech. Their tech's an A+ diagnostic tech. And the guy called me, "Hey man, I know you come out of your program. I know your card says you do diagnostics, and we'd never call you. Can you come tell us if you think this 5th alternator is bad than this Ford?" It was the Ford station wagon car, and I'm like, "No, yeah, I'll come out." And he goes, "Look, I'll give you $200 to come out." He goes, "I don't know what your fee is, but if it's less than 200, I'll give you 200. Okay. So I made sure I had my Pico and stuff, and I go out, I scoped everything. And I'm like, "Yeah, it looks like the alternator is defective, man." He's like, "All right, I'll get another one." Gets another one, puts it in. "Oh, same thing." And he's like, "Hey, it's going to sound really bad. I ordered a PCM. Can you come program it? I'll pay you." Okay, so we put a brand new PCM in it from Ford. Because he's like, "There's no way, 6 alternators, right?" Like, at this point, I just want the car guy. And so put the PCM in it, program it. Same situation. He goes, "I'll put a 7 alternator in it." Calls Ford, tells him, "Look, man, put a PCM in it. We've done this. It's got to be with the alternator." They send him another one, puts it in, same thing. Finally, he takes the 7 alternator out, sends it to a rebuilder down the street, and the guy goes, "Oh, look, there's 2 different like regulator rectifier bridges you can put in this. This one has this part. I'm gonna just go ahead and put the other part in it." He put the other one in, and it fixed the issue.
Yep.
I mean, it was literally like just
Yep.
the rebuilder was putting the wrong one in it, but I mean, we were all standing there going, "This isn't that complicated. Like,
Right.
it's a power, it's a pulse width modulated signal, it's a power and a ground,
Yeah.
right? Like,
It'll make you question everything you went through and everything you thought you knew. You're like, "Oh man, what the heck did I miss?" It's the exact same problem. There's no way it could be the part that.
I mean, you overlay wires because you're so confused at this point. I mean, you have more time invested in it than anybody should ever invest into an alternator, and you're like, "Yeah, it's the alternator."
Yep.
And if the owner wasn't so cool about it, because he's like, "Well, I don't think my tech made a bad call," and he goes, "Even if he did, I'm not throwing him under the bus. We all screw up." But it was just, I'll never forget that. It was quite the unique. I mean, 7 alternators, and it was the one that's like on the bottom by the axle, so you got to like kind of like drop the axle. I was like, the tech said he could do it in 25 minutes after.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, he's got a zipper on that thing now.
Matter of fact, the one time I went there, he only put 1 bolt in it. He goes, "I'll fight the other 2 bolts if it works." He goes, "The belt will hold it."
I suppose.
Yeah,
All right.
You guys ready to wrap this one up?
Yes, sir.
I guess so. I don't know. It's the most fun I've had all week. I haven't had to work on the van. I'm not the only one screwing up cars.
Yeah, well, now you're way behind. Now you got to stay up all night tomorrow working on the van.
Well, the van's getting closer. My dad has come over like every night, and he's done construction his whole life. So when it comes to like, "Hey, Dad, I need you to cut this 8-foot, piece of plywood that now costs $400 for a sheet straight at this measurement, don't screw it up." Like, he actually cuts it like perfectly straight freehand, and I'm looking at it going, "Couldn't do that if I put a piece of wood down and used it as a guide. If you did it by eyeball." It's kind of impressive. So he's been down helping me, but yeah, so hopefully this weekend I haven't built the other shelf to hold all my ADOS stuff, but I'm hoping that because most of my stuff's just in my truck in cases, I can just like set it in there and use it, because now that I'm making a truck payment and I haven't driven it, I'd really like to drive it.
Yeah.
But I got my inverter in, I got the one desk pretty much done, and I put in all the AC outlets. I got my 5 9-watt LED light bulbs that are cool white, which is little bit much. Probably should dial that down. So maybe I'll install a dimmer for fun. I can try out my U Advanced Wave test kit dimmer on that 9-watt circuit. See how long it lasts.
All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. A great talk with those two guys. Want to give another big thank you to Matt and Matthew for coming on the show and talking tools with me. Say, if anybody would like a list of the tools that were mentioned, I'm not going to put them in the show notes. What I will do is email you a list with links if you're interested. So contact me through Facebook or contact me through the email that is listed in the show notes, and I'll send that to you. But I didn't want to post it because it kind of takes away from the episode if you can just check out the list without listening to what we have to say about the tools themselves. So I'd like to thank everyone for listening to the show, and I really appreciate all the great feedback that I've been getting from listeners as well. It means a lot to me. Really, really, truly does. So thank you. And other than that, let's get out there, start fixing the world one car at a time.